Imagine a hero's boundless heart, now cursed with the demon's cataclysmic power. Deku, the symbol of hope, wielding the unholy wrath of Meliodas. Could he master the demonic darkness to save everyone, or would his very soul be the ultimate price for such overwhelming strength?
Welcome, Legends, to Chronos Recom. I wrote this story myself, so if you have any suggestions or what-ifs you want to see, drop it in the comments below. Also, just wanted to let you know I've got a Patreon set up now for anyone who wants to support the channel directly. You can get early access to stories, submit direct fan requests, and get exclusive content. It's totally optional, but if you want to help keep these stories coming, check it out. Links in the description. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit that bell so you never miss an upload. Let's dive into this story.
The train rattled through Musutafu's commercial district, sunlight streaming through windows as commuters minded their own business. Izuku Midoriya stood near the door, one hand gripping the overhead rail, his other scrolling through his phone. At 15, he'd grown into his frame nicely. Tall, broad-shouldered, with an athletic build that came from years of rigorous training. His green eyes held a confident glint that drew occasional glances from other passengers. The explosion came without warning. The entire train car lurched violently as something massive slammed into it from above. Metal shrieked. Glass shattered. Passengers screamed as the car tilted dangerously, torn from its rails by an enormous hand. Izuku's reflexes kicked in instantly. He grabbed a young woman before she could tumble through the broken window, steadying her against the tilted floor. Everyone, brace against the walls, his voice cut through the panic with natural authority. Stay low and hold on. Through the gaping hole in the ceiling, Izuku spotted the cause of the chaos. A villain easily 12 meters tall, his muscular body blocking out the sun. The giant's laugh boomed across the district as he ripped another train car from the elevated tracks. Finally, heroes who can give me a real fight, the villain's voice thundered. I'm the Titan, and I'm taking this whole district apart until someone strong enough stops me. Izuku assessed the situation in seconds. The villain's quirk was active, constantly maintaining his giant form. That meant every part of his body, every movement was quirk-enhanced. Perfect. Sir, you can't. A businessman grabbed Izuku's arm as he moved toward the hole. Izuku flashed him a reassuring grin. Don't worry, I've got this. He leaped through the opening, just as Mont Lady appeared, expanding to her giant size to match the Titan's height. Kamui Woods swung in on his extending branches, trying to find an opening to restrain the villain without endangering civilians. Stand down, Titan, Mont Lady shouted, her voice carrying across the district. You're surrounded! By two heroes? The Titan laughed, swatting at Kamui Woods' branches. I fought harder battles at the gym. Izuku landed smoothly on a nearby rooftop, watching the exchange. Mount Lady was holding back, understandable with all the civilians and infrastructure around. Kamui Woods couldn't get close enough to bind the villain effectively. They needed someone who could end this quickly, decisively, without collateral damage. The Titan wound up a massive punch aimed at Mount Lady. His entire arm glowed with quirk energy as he activated his power to maximum output for the strike. Izuku moved. He launched himself from the rooftop, timing his trajectory perfectly. The world seemed to slow as he positioned himself directly in the path of the Titan's punch. His right hand came up, fingers spread, and something inside him activated. That familiar sensation he'd spent years mastering. Full counter. The Titan's fist connected with Izuku's palm. For a split second, nothing happened. Then reality itself seemed to ripple around Izuku's hand. The quirk-enhanced punch, all its devastating force and energy, reversed direction in an instant. The attack reflected back at the Titan with more than double its original power. Channeled through Izuku's technique, the shockwave was tremendous. The Titan's own punch slammed into him like a meteor strike. The giant's eyes went wide with shock as his body flew backward, crashing through two buildings before slamming into the street with earth-shaking force. Cracks spider-webbed across the pavement. The impact crater was 6 meters wide. Silence fell across the district. The Titan lay unconscious, his quirk deactivating as he shrank back to normal size. Dust settled around the destruction. Civilians stared in stunned disbelief. Izuku landed gracefully on the street, rolling his shoulder casually. "That's what you get for rushing your attack," he said to no one in particular. Mount Lady shrank down to normal size, her purple eyes wide. "Did you just... Who are you?" Izuku Midoriya. He walked past her toward the downed villain, checking to make sure the guy was breathing. "And yeah, I just did." Kamui Woods landed beside them, his wooden mask unable to hide his shock. "Puck, you used your quirk without authorization. That's illegal for unlicensed." The villain was about to paste Mount Lady across 3 city blocks. Izuku interrupted smoothly, meeting the pro hero's eyes without flinching. "I made a judgment call. You're welcome to file a complaint." Before Kamui Woods could respond, Izuku turned to Mount Lady with a genuine smile that completely transformed his expression from serious to charming. "By the way, that size-changing technique you used, the timing was perfect. You kept him focused on you long enough for me to set up the counter. Really impressive work." Mount Lady blinked, clearly caught off guard by the compliment. A slight flush colored her cheeks. "Oh well, I mean, thanks, but you're the one who took him down with one move. Teamwork makes the dream work." Izuku's grin widened. "Hey, you wouldn't happen to have time for coffee sometime? I'd love to discuss hero collaboration strategies. Maybe get your number?" The delivery was so smooth, so genuinely confident without being sleazy, that Mount Lady actually laughed, a surprised, delighted sound. "Did you seriously just ask me out while standing over an unconscious villain?" "Best time to do it. You've already seen me at my best." Izuku winked. Kamui Woods made a strangled noise of exasperation. "This is completely inappropriate. You can't just..." The crowd that had gathered erupted into cheers and applause. Phones were out, recording everything. The comment sections would be wild later. Mount Lady was still smiling, shaking her head in amusement. "You've got guts, kid. Tell you what, apply to a hero school, get your license, and then we'll talk about collaboration. I'll hold you to that." Izuku pulled out his phone as police sirens approached. "Should I give you my contact info now, or wait until after Kamui Woods finishes lecturing me about proper hero protocol?" Mount Lady actually giggled. Kamui Woods looked like he wanted to strangle someone. The incident made the evening news. "Mysterious student defeats Titan villain," read one headline. "Full counter quirk, the next big thing," suggested another. Izuku watched the coverage from his apartment, satisfied with the exposure, but aware he'd drawn attention to himself. His phone buzzed. A text from his mom. "Are you the boy on the news? Call me." Izuku smiled, dialing her number. "Hey, Mom." "Izuku, what were you thinking, jumping into a villain fight like that?" Izuku Midoriya's worried voice filled his ear, though he could hear the pride underneath. "You could have been hurt. I had it under control. Full counter works perfectly when the opponent relies on raw power like that." Izuku flopped onto his couch. "Besides, the heroes were struggling with collateral damage concerns. I ended it cleanly." "That's not the point. You're not licensed yet. What if..." "Mom," his voice gentled. "I know you worry, but I've trained for this my whole life. You've seen me practicing full counter since I was 4 years old. I'm ready." A long pause, then Inko sighed. "I know you are, sweetheart. I remember when the doctor said you had a quirk after all. You were so happy and you've worked so hard to master it. I'm proud of you. Just be careful, okay?" "Always am." Izuku meant it. His quirk, full counter, was powerful but required perfect timing and positioning. One mistake and he'd take the full force of an attack meant to kill. He'd spent over a decade training to use it effectively, building his reflexes and combat sense until they were second nature. They talked for a few more minutes before hanging up. Izuku stretched, feeling the pleasant ache of exertion in his muscles. The Titan's punch had been strong. Even reflecting it had taken effort. His acceptance letter to UA High School sat on his desk, already opened and read a dozen times. Classes started in 2 weeks. He'd passed the entrance exam easily enough, though the point system had been interesting. Destroying robots with their own attacks reflected back at them had been almost too easy. Izuku pulled up a video on his laptop, footage of All Might's debut from years ago. The symbol of peace saving people with that massive smile, that overwhelming strength. That's what a real hero looked like. That's what Izuku intended to become. UA's entrance exam had been straightforward. While other examinees struggled with the robots, Izuku had moved through the urban battlefield like a ghost, positioning himself to counter the machine's attacks perfectly. Missiles, energy beams, even physical strikes, all reflected back with devastating precision. He'd racked up 53 villain points before the zero-pointer appeared. The massive robot had been designed to make students flee, but Izuku had seen it as an opportunity. One girl, pink-skinned, with horns, was trapped under debris in the robot's path. Without hesitation, Izuku had sprinted toward it. The zero-pointer's fist came down like a meteor. Izuku slid under it, placing his palm against the massive metal limb. Full counter! The robot's own attack force reversed instantly, sending the machine toppling backward in a screech of tortured metal. Izuku had pulled the girl, Mina Ashido, he'd learned later, from the rubble as Present Mike's voice boomed across the exam site, announcing time's up. That had earned him rescue points on top of his villain points. More importantly, it had earned him a reputation before classes even started. Now, standing outside Class 1A on his first day, Izuku could hear arguing inside. He recognized one voice, Tenya Ida, the overly formal guy from the exam who'd lectured him about distracting other examinees. The other voice was unfamiliar but aggressive. Izuku opened the door. Feet off the desk. That's disrespectful to the craftsman who made it and the upperclassman who sat there before you. Like I care what some uptight extra thinks. A blonde kid with spiky hair and red eyes had his feet propped on his desk, glaring at Ida with obvious contempt. Mind your own business. The classroom was spacious, with high ceilings and large windows overlooking the campus. About half the seats were filled with students who'd already arrived. Conversations died as Izuku entered, several pairs of eyes turning his way. Ah, you're the one who defeated that giant villain on the news. Ida's attention immediately shifted, his arm movements becoming even more robotic with enthusiasm. And the examinee who destroyed the zero-pointer. Your practical score was exceptional, 53 villain points and 30 rescue points. Thanks. Izuku walked past him, scanning the room. The blonde kid was watching him with narrowed eyes. A girl with brown hair and pink cheeks waved enthusiastically. She'd been at the exam too. Near the window, a boy with half-white, half-red hair observed silently, his expression unreadable. I'm Tenya Ida, from Somi Private Academy. Ida extended his hand formally. I must apologize for my behavior during the entrance exam. I misjudged your actions. You clearly saw things I did not. Izuku shook his hand, appreciating the straightforward apology. No worries. You were focused on the mission. That's not a bad thing. Tch. The blonde kid stood abruptly. So you're the full counter guy everyone's talking about. Flashy quirk. Probably useless in a real fight. Probably, Izuku agreed easily, meeting the hostile gaze with a calm smile. Guess we'll find out. The response clearly wasn't what the blonde expected. He looked like he wanted to say more, but the door opened again. More students filed in, a tall girl with a black ponytail, a short boy with purple balls for hair, a muscular guy with multiple arms, others Izuku cataloged automatically. The brown-haired girl bounded over to him. Hi, I'm Ochako Uraraka. You saved that girl during the exam, right? That was so cool. Her enthusiasm was infectious. Izuku Midoriya. And thanks, but she would have been fine. The exam had safety measures. He'd noticed the teachers positioned around the battlefield ready to intervene. Still, not everyone would have tried, Uraraka beamed. Your quirk is amazing, by the way. Reflecting attacks like that, it's perfect for hero work. Before Izuku could respond, a tired voice came from the doorway. If you're here to socialize, leave. This is the hero course. Everyone turned. A man in a sleeping bag lay on the floor just inside the classroom, bloodshot eyes staring at them from within the yellow cocoon. Several students jumped in surprise. The man unzipped the sleeping bag, standing slowly. His long black hair hung limp around his face, his stubble suggesting he hadn't shaved in days. Dark circles under his eyes made him look perpetually exhausted. I'm Shota Aizawa, your homeroom teacher. Get changed and meet me outside. You have 10 minutes. He tossed a stack of gym uniforms toward the nearest desk. The class exchanged glances, but moved quickly. Nobody wanted to test what happened if they were late. The quirk apprehension test was simple in concept, 8 physical tests with quirks allowed. Aizawa explained it dispassionately while the class assembled on the training field. The one who places last will be judged hopeless and expelled immediately. That got reactions. Shock, fear, protests. That's not fair. Uraraka burst out. Natural disasters, highway pileups, rampaging villains, calamities whose cause and arrival are impossible to predict. Japan is covered with unfairness. Heroes are the ones who reverse those situations. If you're going to whine about fairness, you can go home right now. Aizawa's eyes were cold. For the next 3 years, UA will throw every hardship at you. Go beyond. Plus ultra. That's what makes a hero. The first test was a 50-meter dash. Izuku watched as Ida used his engine quirk to blaze across in 3 seconds. Impressive. The girl with the ponytail, Yaoyorozu, he'd learned, created a small motor vehicle. Creative. When Izuku's turn came, he simply ran. No quirk. His time was still respectable at 7 seconds flat. Years of physical training paid dividends. The blonde kid, Bakugo, sneered as he passed. What's wrong? Quirk not flashy enough for running? Full counter only works on attacks, Izuku said pleasantly. No point wasting it here. Grip strength was similar. Others used their quirks while Izuku relied on raw physicality. Standing long jump, sustained sideways jumps, ball throw, each test showed different students' strengths. Uraraka scored infinity on the ball throw by making it weightless. Bakugo launched his ball with an explosion, screaming like a maniac. Throughout it all, Aizawa watched with those calculating eyes. The final test was endurance running. As they completed their laps, Aizawa called out the rankings. Yaoyorozu, first place, Todoroki, second, Bakugo, third, Ida, fourth. He continued down the list. Midoriya, ninth. Izuku nodded, satisfied. Ninth place without using his quirk at all, that put him solidly mid-pack, showing his physical conditioning was excellent. More importantly, it proved he wasn't helpless without full counter. And in last place, Aizawa's eyes settled on a purple-haired boy who'd struggled with most tests. Mineta. The short student went pale. But you said, I lied. No one's getting expelled. It was a logical ruse to draw out your best performances. The relief was palpable. Izuku just smiled. He'd suspected as much. First-day expulsion would be a bureaucratic nightmare, and UA had accepted everyone here for a reason. As they headed back to change, the half-red, half-white-haired boy, Todoroki, approached Izuku. Your physical scores were high for someone who didn't use their quirk. Todoroki's voice was flat, emotionless. Why hold back? Wasn't holding back, just using the right tool for the job. Izuku studied him. Your quirk looked like ice manipulation. Strong output, excellent control. You placed second even while only using it minimally. What's your deal? Todoroki's eyes widened slightly, probably not used to someone turning questions back on him. I only use my ice. The other half isn't relevant. Other half? Izuku caught the implication. Dual-type quirk? Not your concern. Todoroki walked away, leaving Izuku curious but not bothered. Bakugo was another matter. The explosive blonde had been glaring at Izuku all day, clearly wanting a confrontation. As they entered the locker room, he finally made his move. Hey, Midoriya. Bakugo's voice was low, dangerous. You think you're hot shit because you got some lucky shots in against a villain? Izuku finished changing shirts before responding. I think I'm competent at using my quirk. That's all. Competent. Bakugo's hands sparked with small explosions. Your quirk is a gimmick. Flashy, sure. But against a real fighter, someone who won't just throw predictable attacks, you're nothing. Several other students had stopped to watch, sensing confrontation. Izuku met Bakugo's glare calmly. You might be right, or you might be assuming things about a quirk you've never fought against. Either way, we'll find out during training, won't we? Damn right we will. Bakugo leaned in close. And when we do, I'm going to show everyone that your flashy counter trick is worthless. Looking forward to it. Izuku's smile never wavered. Bakugo stormed off, still radiating hostility. A pink-skinned girl, Mina Ashido, the one he'd saved during the exam, whistled low. Wow, Bakugo really doesn't like you. He doesn't seem to like anyone, Izuku observed. But I appreciate the passion. Guy clearly wants to be the best. Even if he's a total jerk about it, Ashido shook her head. I'm Mina, by the way. Thanks again for the exam save. No problem, Mina. Izuku grabbed his bag. Your acid quirk looked versatile, good range, good control. She beamed at the compliment, launching into an enthusiastic explanation of her abilities as they headed back to the classroom. The battle trial came 3 days later. All Might, the symbol of peace himself, burst into the classroom like a living explosion of charisma. I am, coming through the door like a normal person. His presence was overwhelming. 3 meters of pure muscle packed into a Silver Age costume, that iconic smile blazing like the sun. The class erupted into excited chatter. Holy crap, it's actually All Might. He's really a teacher here. That costume. Izuku studied the #1 hero with interest. All Might's quirk was listed as one for all, apparently passed down through generations, granting superhuman strength. Powerful, certainly, but Izuku had always wondered about its limitations. Today's training will be different, All Might announced. We're going to be conducting battle training, and to go with your first battle, we've prepared these. He pressed a button, and sections of wall slid open, revealing numbered cases. The hero costumes had arrived. 20 minutes later, the class assembled at Training Ground Beta, everyone in their custom gear. Izuku's costume was simple but functional. A dark green jacket over a black compression shirt, dark pants, and reinforced boots. No unnecessary elements, nothing that would restrict movement. He designed it for speed and flexibility. Some costumes were more elaborate. Bakugo looked like a grenade with legs. Yaoyorozu's costume was revealing, but apparently necessary for her creation quirk. Ida wore literal armor with exhaust pipes. Todoroki's was split down the middle, half red and half white. Looking good, everyone. All Might's voice boomed. Now then, for this training, you'll be split into villain teams and hero teams for a 2-on-2 indoor battle. He explained the exercise. Villains would guard a nuclear weapon, fake, on an upper floor, while heroes tried to capture it or the villains within 15 minutes. Villains won by protecting the weapon or capturing the heroes. The teams have been decided by drawing lots. All Might held up a box. The first match was announced. Team A, Izuku and Uraraka as heroes versus Team D, Bakugo and Ida as villains. Bakugo's grin was feral. Perfect. Inside the preparation room, Uraraka looked nervous. Bakugo seems really intense about this. He wants to prove his quirk is better than mine, Izuku said calmly, studying the building layout on the provided map, which means he'll come straight for me, probably aggressively. Ida will likely stay with the weapon. He's too rule-focused to abandon the objective. So what's our plan? You go for the weapon. I'll handle Bakugo. Izuku traced possible routes. Your zero gravity can get you through the building faster than normal movement. Use that mobility. I'll keep Bakugo busy. But he's so strong. Those explosions are perfect for full counter. Izuku's smile was confident. Trust me. The buzzer sounded. Izuku entered the building first, senses on high alert. The structure was designed like a warehouse, multiple floors connected by stairs and open spaces, shadows everywhere. Perfect ambush territory. He found Bakugo on the second floor, waiting in a wide corridor. The blonde's grin was manic. No running away this time, Midoriya. Just you, me, and our quirks. Wouldn't dream of it. Izuku settled into a loose fighting stance, one had practiced thousands of times. Bakugo attacked immediately, launching forward with explosions propelling him from his palms. His right hand swung in a wide arc, palm aimed at Izuku's chest. Too obvious. Izuku sidestepped, letting the explosion pass harmlessly by. Bakugo pivoted, firing another blast. This one, Izuku caught with full counter, the explosive force reversing instantly and slamming into Bakugo's own chest. The blonde flew backward, crashing into a wall. He got up immediately, grinning despite the impact. Not bad, but you can't counter what you can't see coming. Bakugo changed tactics, using smaller explosions to propel himself around the room at high speed, creating unpredictable angles of attack. He fired explosion after explosion, forcing Izuku to dodge and weave. Smart. Overwhelming volume instead of single powerful shots. But Izuku had trained for this. His reflexes, honed through years of practice, tracked Bakugo's movements. When the blonde committed to a heavy right hook backed by a massive explosion, Izuku was ready. Full counter. The blast reversed with double force, catching Bakugo midair and sending him crashing through a wall into the next room. Dust and debris filled the air. Team A, the hero team, has reached the 4th floor, All Might's voice announced through speakers. Team D, the villain team, be advised. Uraraka had made good time. Izuku allowed himself a moment of satisfaction before Bakugo emerged from the rubble, costume scorched but eyes blazing with determination. You think that's enough? Bakugo charged again, more reckless now, explosions firing in rapid succession. Izuku didn't bother countering the smaller blasts. They weren't worth the effort. Instead, he focused on closing distance. When Bakugo wound up for another big explosion, Izuku ducked under it and drove his fist into the blonde's gut. The punch was precise, carrying the weight of Izuku's full body behind it. Bakugo folded, gasping for air. "You're strong," Izuku said, stepping back as Bakugo struggled to recover. "But strength without strategy is just noise." "Shut up," Bakugo wheezed, raising his palm for another blast. "Team A wins. The heroes have secured the weapon." All Might's announcement echoed through the building. Bakugo froze, the reality of defeat sinking in. His expression cycled through disbelief, rage, and finally bitter acceptance. "How?" he demanded. "How did she get past Ida?" "While you were focused on me, she went straight for the objective." Izuku offered a hand to help Bakugo up. "You let your personal grudge override the mission." Bakugo stared at the offered hand like it was poisonous. Then he slapped it away and stood on his own, stalking toward the exit without another word. The observation room had erupted into chatter during the match. All Might addressed the class afterward, analyzing the battle. Young Bakugo has impressive power and combat instincts, but he lost sight of the objective. Young Ida took the exercise too seriously, barely defending when he could have been more proactive. Young Uraraka showed excellent mobility and objective focus. And young Midoriya, All Might's smile beamed. His strategic thinking and efficient use of his quirk were exemplary. He neutralized the strongest threat while trusting his partner to complete the mission. Well done. The praise felt good, but Izuku was more interested in watching the other matches. Team B, Todoroki and a girl named Shoji, demolished Team 1, Ojiro and a student with a tape quirk, in less than 3 minutes. Todoroki's ice instantly froze the entire building, immobilizing everyone except his teammate, overwhelming power with perfect control. Todoroki was dangerous. Other matches showed various levels of creativity and skill. Yaoyorozu's tactical mind was impressive, though she sometimes overthought. Tokoyami's dark shadow was powerful but had clear weaknesses. Ashido's acid dissolved through floors to create new routes. Each student had potential, each had weaknesses. After class, Todoroki approached Izuku again. "Your fight against Bakugo was efficient." "Thanks. Your match was even faster." "My quirk is powerful. That's not the same as skill." Todoroki's heterochromatic eyes studied him. "You redirected Bakugo's own attacks. Could you do the same with my ice?" Izuku considered. "Theoretically, yes. If your ice is quirk-generated and still connected to your power when it hits me, full counter should work. But I've never tested it against elemental attacks that persistent." Interesting. Todoroki seemed about to say more, then simply nodded and walked away. Weird guy. But Izuku could respect someone focused on understanding abilities and limitations. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of classes and training. Foundational hero studies with All Might, quirk theory with a hero called Ectoplasm, rescue training basics with 13. Izuku absorbed everything, constantly analyzing how to apply his quirk in different scenarios. His reputation in Class 1A solidified. He was strong, confident, and approachable. People naturally gravitated toward him. Uraraka, Ida, Ashido, and a few others formed a loose friend group around him. Even Yaoyorozu occasionally asked his opinion on tactical scenarios. Bakugo remained hostile but kept his distance after the battle trial. Todoroki was an enigma. Powerful, focused, but emotionally distant. It was almost peaceful. Then came the day everything changed. "Today, you'll be going to the unforeseen simulation joint for rescue training," All Might announced one morning. "It's an off-campus facility designed for disaster scenarios. Everyone on the bus." The USJ Unforeseen Simulation Joint was impressive. The facility sprawled across acres, divided into zones simulating different disasters: landslides, fires, floods, storms, even a shipwreck zone. 13, the space hero, greeted them at the entrance with her typical enthusiasm. "Welcome. Today, you'll learn." Her speech cut off as the air in the center plaza shimmered. A dark purple portal opened, expanding rapidly. Figures emerged from the swirling void. Dozens of people in mismatched clothing, their hostile intent immediately apparent, villains. 13. Protect the students. Aizawa's voice was sharp as he moved toward the plaza. His usual tired demeanor vanished, replaced by a hero's focus. From the portal stepped a man composed entirely of purple mist, his body insubstantial and flowing. Beside him, a figure with hands covering his entire body scratched at his neck, nervously. Where is he? The hand-covered man's voice was raspy, childish. Where's All Might? We came to kill the symbol of peace. More villains poured through the portal, at least 70, maybe 80. They spread out across the facility, moving with clear purpose. 13. Begin evacuation procedures. Aizawa's capture weapon extended from his scarf as he leaped into battle. These villains knew exactly when we'd be here. This was planned. The mist villain Kurogiri moved toward the students. I'm afraid we can't let you leave. Ida tried to rush past to get help, but Kurogiri's warp gate appeared in his path. Scatter. The portal expanded beneath the students' feet. Izuku felt the sickening sensation of falling through warped space, reality twisting around him. When he landed, he was alone in the ruins zone, surrounded by crumbling buildings and villains emerging from the shadows. 5 of them, armed with various weapons and quirks. One had blades extending from his arms. Another's skin rippled with stone armor. A woman with elongated limbs stalked forward like a spider. Just a kid? Blade Arms laughed. This'll be easy. Izuku stood slowly, assessing the situation. 5 experienced villains versus 1 student. In a straight fight, most students would be overwhelmed. Good thing Izuku wasn't most students. Blade Arms attacked first, his arm blades extending toward Izuku's chest in a lightning-fast strike. Izuku sidestepped, grabbed the extended blade, and used the villain's own momentum to throw him into stone skin. Both went down in a tangle. Spider-Woman's elongated arms lashed out from multiple angles. Izuku ducked 2, caught the 3rd, and pulled hard. She stumbled forward, off balance. His knee met her face with a satisfying crunch. The remaining 2 villains, one with fire breath, one who could harden his fists, attacked together. Fire breath unleashed a stream of flames. Izuku raised his hand. Full counter. The fire reversed instantly, engulfing the fire breather and catching hard fists in the blast. Both screamed, diving for cover. The whole encounter took maybe 20 seconds. Izuku looked around at the groaning villains. You guys really should have brought more people. But his confidence was tempered by worry. If villains had attacked all the zones simultaneously, his classmates could be in danger. He needed to regroup. He made his way toward the central plaza, taking down scattered villains along the route. Most were small-time criminals, overconfident and underskilled. None posed a real threat. As he neared the plaza, he heard fighting. Aizawa was in the center of the villain mob, his erasure quirk negating their abilities, while his capture weapon and martial arts took them down methodically. The pro hero was impressive, efficient, brutal when necessary, always moving, but there were too many. Izuku was about to intervene when he saw it, a massive humanoid creature with an exposed brain and a bird-like face. The thing moved with inhuman speed, grabbing Aizawa's arm. The hero's eyes widened in pain as the creature Nomu, the hand-covered villain called it, began crushing his elbow. Aizawa's capture weapon lashed out, but the Nomu tanked hits that should have broken bones without flinching. Shock absorption, the hand-covered villain, Shigaraki, explained with childish glee. Hyper-regeneration, built specifically to kill All Might. Your erasure doesn't work on physical mutations. Eraserhead, the Nomu's body modifications are permanent. The Nomu slammed Aizawa into the ground. The pro-hero struggled to rise, clearly injured. Izuku moved without thinking, sprinting into the plaza. He needed to help. The Nomu's head snapped toward him with predatory focus. Then it moved. The creature was on him in a heartbeat, faster than should be possible for something that size. A fist the size of Izuku's chest drove toward his face with enough force to pulverize concrete. Izuku's hand came up. Full counter! The impact was tremendous. The Nomu's punch reflected back at double strength, sending the creature flying backward. It crashed through a building, the structure collapsing in a cloud of dust. Shigaraki's scratching stopped. Oh, interesting. The Nomu emerged from the rubble, completely unharmed. Its exposed brain pulsed, and the creature charged again. This time, Izuku was ready. He dodged the first punch, countered the second, and drove his own fist into the Nomu's gut. It was like hitting a brick wall. The creature didn't even flinch. The Nomu's counterattack was instant. A barrage of punches faster than Izuku could track. He managed to counter 2, but the third caught him in the ribs. Pain exploded through his side as he flew backward, slamming into the ground hard enough to crack pavement. Izuku gasped, struggling to his feet. The Nomu advanced, relentless. Full counter only works on quirk-based attacks, doesn't it? Shigaraki called out, scratching his neck again. But what about physical strength? The Nomu's muscles are modified, not actively powered by a quirk. Can you counter raw physical force? Damn it. He was right. Full counter worked best against active quirk attacks. Energy blasts, elemental manipulation, anything directly powered by someone's ability. Pure physical strength from a modified body was harder to classify. The Nomu grabbed Izuku before he could dodge, lifting him off the ground. Its grip was like iron. It slammed him down, then again, then again. Each impact drove the air from his lungs, sent fresh waves of pain through his body. He tried to counter, but the attacks were too fast, too varied. Physical strikes from all angles. His quirk needed a clear attack to reflect. This was just overwhelming violence. Blood ran into his eyes. His vision blurred. Ribs were definitely cracked, maybe broken. But he couldn't give up. His classmates were counting on him. Aizawa was down. If he fell here, Shigaraki and the Nomu would kill everyone. The Nomu lifted him high, preparing to slam him into the ground hard enough to shatter bones. Izuku's mind raced. He needed something more. Full counter wasn't enough. He needed power. Something inside him stirred. A presence he'd never noticed before, vast and dark and ancient. It felt like looking into an abyss that looked back with interest. The Nomu brought him down. At the last second, Izuku twisted, absorbing the impact with his whole body instead of just his back. The pain was excruciating. But he'd felt pain before. What he hadn't felt was this reservoir of something else inside him, responding to his desperation. The Nomu grabbed him again. Izuku stopped trying to counter. Instead, he took every hit, each punch, each slam, each bone-crushing blow. He absorbed them all, feeling the damage accumulate. His body was breaking, but something else was building. What's he doing? Shigaraki sounded confused. Is he giving up? Not giving up. Charging. The Nomu raised its fist for what would probably be a killing blow. Izuku's eyes snapped open. Revenge counter! Power exploded from his body in a sphere of pure kinetic force. Every ounce of damage he'd taken, every impact absorbed, released in one catastrophic blast. The shockwave was visible, a rippling wall of energy that expanded outward. The Nomu was caught point blank. The creature flew backward like it had been hit by a missile, crashing through multiple buildings. The other villains in the plaza were sent tumbling. Even Shigaraki stumbled, raising his arms to shield himself from the blast. Izuku collapsed to his knees, gasping. That technique, revenge counter, the name had come to him instinctively, had drained him. But it had worked. Then the Nomu stood up. Its body was damaged, certainly. Chunks of flesh were missing. Bones were visible through torn skin. But as Izuku watched in horror, the wounds began closing. Flesh knitted back together. The exposed brain pulsed, and within seconds the creature was whole again. Hyper-regeneration, Shigaraki reminded him, giggling now. You can't kill it. No matter how much damage you do, it'll just heal, and you look pretty beat up yourself. Can you even stand? Izuku forced himself to his feet. His legs shook, his vision swam. Blood dripped from dozens of cuts and wounds. The Nomu charged again. This time, Izuku couldn't dodge fast enough. The creature's fist caught him in the chest, sending him flying. He hit the ground, rolled, tried to stand. The Nomu was there, grabbing his leg and swinging him like a club into the pavement. Once, twice, 3 times. Izuku felt bones crack, felt something tear inside. He couldn't win like this. Full counter couldn't handle the Nomu's speed and physical power. Revenge counter had failed to put it down permanently. He needed something more. Something darker. That presence inside him stirred again, stronger now. It felt eager, like it had been waiting for this moment, waiting for Izuku to be desperate enough, broken enough to accept what it offered. The Nomu lifted him high again, preparing another slam. Izuku's consciousness was fading. He was going to die here. Unless, let me help you, something whispered in his mind. Not words, exactly. More like a feeling, an understanding. Let me show you what you really are. Izuku didn't fully understand what was happening, but he was out of options, out of strength, out of time. He let go. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Dark power erupted from Izuku's body like a volcanic explosion. The Nomu dropped him instinctively, stumbling back from the sudden surge of energy. The air itself grew heavy, oppressive, as if reality was being pressed down by an invisible weight. Izuku rose to his feet, but something was different. His movements were smoother, more controlled despite his injuries. His presence had changed. The confident student was gone, replaced by something primal and dangerous. On his forehead, a black mark appeared. It looked like a demonic symbol, intricate and pulsing with dark energy. The mark spread slightly down the sides of his face, and his green eyes now held a faint glow. The demon mark. His first transformation, power flooded through Izuku's body, far beyond anything he'd felt before. His injuries were still there, but the pain felt distant, manageable. His strength, speed, reflexes, everything had multiplied several times over. And with the power came knowledge. Techniques he'd never learned suddenly made sense. Abilities he'd never known he possessed became accessible. This wasn't just enhanced strength, this was a complete evolution of what he could do. The Nomu attacked again, but now Izuku could see every movement. The creature's punch came in slow motion from his enhanced perspective. He dodged easily, and his counterstrike, a simple palm thrust, sent the Nomu skidding backward across the plaza. Shigaraki's scratching intensified. What? What is that? Izuku didn't answer. He raised his hand and black flames appeared. Not red or orange like normal fire. These flames were pitch black, flickering with dark energy. They felt wrong, unnatural, powerful, hellblaze. He threw the flames at the Nomu. The black fire engulfed the creature, and for the first time, the Nomu screamed. It thrashed, trying to extinguish the flames, but Hellblaze didn't burn like normal fire. It consumed at a conceptual level, negating the very idea of regeneration. The Nomu's flesh tried to heal, but Hellblaze prevented it. The creature's hyper-regeneration, its greatest asset, was useless against these flames. Izuku advanced, his presence radiating menace. Dark energy gathered around his hands, shaping into blade-like constructs. Darkness manipulation, another ability he'd never known he possessed, now as natural as breathing. The shadow blades cut through the Nomu's body like paper. Each strike prevented regeneration where it landed. The creature was being carved apart, unable to heal, unable to defend. Impossible, Shigaraki breathed. The Nomu was supposed to be unstoppable. It was built to fight all might. The Nomu tried one last desperate attack, lunging at Izuku with both fists raised. Izuku met the charge head-on. His hand caught the creature's punch, and this time his full counter was augmented by demonic power. The reflection was devastating. The Nomu's own attack, multiplied and enhanced by dark energy, tore through its body with apocalyptic force. The creature disintegrated, reduced to chunks of flesh that scattered across the plaza. Silence fell. Izuku stood in the center of the carnage, the demon mark still glowing on his forehead, Hellblaze flickering around his hands. He turned to face Shigaraki and the remaining villains. They ran. Kurogiri opened warp gates frantically, and the villains fled through them without hesitation. Within seconds, the USJ was empty, except for the students and unconscious hero. The dark power began to fade. The demon mark receded, its glow diminishing until only a faint outline remained before disappearing entirely. Izuku stumbled, the massive energy drain hitting him all at once. He collapsed, consciousness fading. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was Todoroki and Kirishima rushing toward him, their expressions shocked and concerned. Then nothing. Izuku woke up in Recovery Girl's office 3 days later. The tiny hero was immediately at his side, checking his vitals with practiced efficiency. Finally awake, are we? You've had quite the rest, young man. What? Izuku's voice was hoarse. What happened? You single-handedly defeated a bioweapon designed to kill All Might. That's what happened. Recovery Girl's tone was stern but not unkind. You also unlocked some kind of secondary aspect to your quirk that nobody knew existed, including you apparently. The whole school's been in an uproar. Memories flooded back. The Nomu, the desperation, that dark presence inside him, the power. Is everyone okay? Izuku tried to sit up. Stay down. Recovery Girl pushed him back gently but firmly. Yes, everyone survived thanks to you. Aizawa has significant injuries, but will recover. The other students are mostly fine. Some bruises, some trauma, but alive. You took the worst of it. My quirk? Changed? Evolved? Revealed its true nature? Recovery Girl sighed. We don't know. Principal Nezu wants to speak with you when you're recovered. So does All Might. And probably half the Hero Commission. That power you displayed, it was unlike anything in your quirk registry. Izuku processed this. His quirk was supposed to be counter. Just full counter. The ability to reflect attacks. But he'd used other techniques. Revenge Counter, which absorbed damage, Hellblaze, those black flames that negated regeneration, Darkness Manipulation, and that transformation, the Demon Mark. What was he? Can I see a mirror? Recovery Girl brought him one. Izuku studied his reflection. He looked normal, same green eyes, same face. No sign of the mark, but he could feel it, dormant inside him, that vast reservoir of dark power waiting. Get some rest, Recovery Girl advised. You've got a lot of questions to answer soon, but for now, just focus on healing. She left him alone with his thoughts. Izuku stared at his hands, remembering the feel of Hellblaze, the weight of demonic power. This was part of him. It had always been part of him, apparently. He just hadn't known, or maybe he'd known on some level. Those times during training when he'd felt like there was more to his quirk, sensations he couldn't quite explain. He dismissed them as imagination. They weren't. His quirk wasn't just counter. It was something far deeper, far more powerful, something demonic. The door opened. All Might entered, his usual smile subdued. Young Midoriya, how are you feeling? Confused, tired, unsure about pretty much everything. Izuku met the hero's eyes. What am I? All Might pulled up a chair, settling his massive frame carefully. That's what we're trying to figure out. Your quirk registry lists counter as your ability, but what you displayed at the USJ, that was far beyond simple reflection. I didn't know I could do those things. The black flames, the transformation, it just happened when I was desperate enough. Quirks can evolve, All Might said carefully. Or they can have hidden aspects that only emerge under extreme stress. What you experience might be an awakening, your quirk revealing its full potential. But why didn't it show up before? I've trained with full counter for years. I've been in dangerous situations. Why now? That's a question for the doctors and scientists. All Might's expression grew serious. But I can tell you this, the power you displayed was remarkable, also concerning. Concerning how? The energy readings from the USJ were unusual, dark, oppressive, almost malevolent in nature. The Nomu you defeated was a monster built specifically to counter me, and you destroyed it completely. That level of power in the hands of a 15-year-old. All Might trailed off. You think I'm dangerous? I think you're powerful, and power requires responsibility. You saved your classmates. You defeated villains that threatened everyone. But you also tapped into something you don't fully understand. All Might leaned forward. My question is, can you control it? Izuku considered. Could he? That power had felt almost alive, like it had its own will. He'd only accessed it by surrendering to desperation, by letting go of control. I don't know, he admitted, but I'm going to learn. All Might's smile returned, genuine this time. That's the right answer. UA will help you. We'll figure out your quirk's true nature together. For now, focus on recovery. After All Might left, other visitors came. His classmates filed in one by one or in small groups. Uraraka was teary-eyed with relief. Ida was formally grateful for Izuku's heroism. Ashido called him a badass. Even Bakugo showed up, though he just glared silently for a minute before leaving without a word. Todoroki's visit was different. Your power, the dual-type user said without preamble. It changed during the fight. I saw the footage. Footage? The USJ has security cameras. The teachers reviewed everything. Todoroki's heterochromatic eyes were intense. You transformed. Some kind of marking appeared on your face, and your entire presence changed. Then you used abilities completely different from your registered quirk. Izuku nodded slowly. I know. I'm still figuring it out. The flames you used, they were black. They prevented the Nomu's regeneration. Todoroki's hand unconsciously went to the scar over his left eye. Fire that negates healing. That's unusual. You sound interested. I'm always interested in powerful quirks, especially ones that defy normal classification. Todoroki stood to leave, then paused. You're strong, Midoriya. Stronger than I initially thought. I'm looking forward to facing you properly someday. It wasn't a threat, just a statement of fact that delivered with Todoroki's typical emotional distance. Izuku spent another 2 days in Recovery Girl's office before being cleared to return to classes. The school had been on high alert since the USJ attack. Security tripled, new protocols implemented, staff on edge. His return was met with mixed reactions. Most classmates were supportive, impressed by his heroism. Some were clearly nervous about his power. A few seemed jealous. Principal Nezu called him to his office that afternoon. The small, mouse-like creature sat behind an enormous desk, sipping tea with disturbing intelligence in his beady eyes. "Ah, Midoriya, please sit. Tea?" "No, thank you, sir." "Straight to business, then. Excellent." Nezu set down his cup. "Your performance at the USJ was extraordinary. You saved lives, defeated a dangerous bioweapon, and demonstrated abilities far beyond what your quirk registry suggests. This presents us with an interesting situation. I understand if you want to update my registry." "Update it to what?" Nezu interrupted gently. "You displayed at least 4 distinct abilities. Your known full counter, a technique that absorbed and released damage, black flames that negated healing, and some form of physical transformation that exponentially increased your power. Not to mention the darkness manipulation witnessed by several students. That's not a simple quirk, that's an entire power set." Izuku had no response to that. "We need to understand what you are," Nezu continued. "For your sake and everyone else's, I'm assigning you additional training sessions with multiple teachers, combat analysis with Aizawa, power testing with All Might, quirk theory with myself. We'll explore your abilities systematically and safely." "I want to understand too," Izuku said. "This power, it feels like it's always been there, but buried, hidden even from me." "Quirks can be like that, especially powerful ones." Nezu's expression was unreadable, but there's something else. The energy signature your transformation produced. Our sensors detected traces of something we've never seen before. Not quite a standard quirk signature. Something older, perhaps, more primal. "What does that mean?" "We don't know yet, but we'll find out." Nezu smiled, though it didn't reach his eyes. "For now, continue your classes as normal. The special training will begin next week. And Midoriya, be careful. Power like yours attracts attention, both positive and negative." The warning was clear. Classes resumed with an almost surreal normalcy. Izuku threw himself into training, both to improve his combat skills and to explore his mysterious power. In private sessions, he attempted to activate the demon mark again. It took 3 weeks of effort. He tried meditation, extreme exercise, even recreating the desperate emotional state from the USJ. Nothing worked. The power remained dormant, inaccessible. Then, during a particularly intense training session with All Might, it happened. They were sparring, All Might holding back massively, of course, but still providing real challenge. Izuku had been pushing himself hard, trying to find that edge, that limit where his power would respond. All Might threw a punch. Izuku countered it. The reflected force sent All Might skidding back, and the hero grinned. "Excellent. Your timing improves daily. Again." They continued, the pace increasing. Izuku's body moved on instinct, his mind clear and focused. He wasn't desperate, wasn't afraid, just completely, utterly concentrated on the fight. Then he felt it, that dark presence stirring, responding not to fear but to his will. The demon mark appeared on his forehead, but different this time, more controlled. The power surge was still immense, but Izuku remained conscious, aware, in command. All Might stopped immediately, sensing the change. "Young Midoriya?" "I'm okay." Izuku examined his hands, feeling the demonic energy flowing through him. "This time I'm in control." They spent the next hour testing his transformed state. His physical abilities were roughly 3 times higher than normal. Strength, speed, reflexes all massively enhanced. He could access Hellblaze at will, create simple constructs from darkness, and his full counter was significantly more powerful. But the transformation was draining. After 20 minutes, Izuku felt exhausted. After 30, the mark faded on its own, and he collapsed, completely spent. "That's your limit for now," All Might observed. 30 minutes of enhanced power, then complete exhaustion. That's actually quite good for a first controlled activation. Izuku agreed, though he knew there was room for improvement. The USJ had taught him one crucial lesson. This power was his to master, not something to fear or avoid. Over the following weeks, he experimented further. He discovered Counter Vanish, a technique that dispersed attacks instead of reflecting them, useful against area effects. He learned to extend his darkness manipulation, creating weapons and shields. His Hellblaze became more refined, capable of both devastating attack and precise control. The demon mark itself seemed to have multiple levels. The first mark, what he'd accessed so far, provided a 3-fold power increase. But he could sense there were deeper levels, stronger transformations waiting to be unlocked. He just needed time training, and the right push to access them. The sports festival announcement came 2 weeks after the USJ attack. The UA Sports Festival is one of Japan's biggest events, Midnight explained to the assembled first years. Once a year, students from all courses compete in front of professional heroes, agencies, and the entire nation. This is your chance to show what you can do. The atmosphere in Class 1A was electric. For many students, this was the opportunity they'd been waiting for, a chance to prove themselves on the biggest stage. Villains attacked us, but we're not backing down. Kirishima pumped his fist enthusiastically. We'll show everyone that Class 1A is the real deal. Bakugo was even more fired up than usual. I'm winning this thing, no question. Todoroki remained silent, but his eyes held intense focus. Izuku felt excitement building. This was exactly what he needed. High-level competition, a chance to test his abilities against strong opponents, and an opportunity to show the hero world what he could do. The next 2 weeks were a frenzy of preparation. Every student trained like their lives depended on it. Izuku focused on extending his demon mark duration and mastering his various techniques without transformation. He also noticed increased attention from his female classmates. Uraraka had always been friendly, but now she seemed flustered around him. Ashita was openly flirtatious. Even Yaoyorozu engaged him in more personal conversations. Jiro, the girl with earphone jacks, started sitting near him at lunch. Your fighting style is really efficient, she commented one day, her usual deadpan delivery making it hard to tell if she was just making conversation or flirting. No wasted movement. Thanks. Efficiency is key when your quirk requires precise timing. Izuku smiled at her. Your sound abilities are pretty versatile too. Offense, reconnaissance, communication, you've got options. She blushed slightly, looking away. Yeah, well, it's not as flashy as yours. Flashy isn't always better. These interactions came naturally to Izuku. He was genuinely interested in people, confident without being arrogant, and his combat prowess had earned respect. The combination was apparently attractive, not that he had time for serious romance with the sports festival approaching. The day of the festival arrived with massive fanfare. The stadium was packed with thousands of spectators. News helicopters circled overhead. Pro heroes from across the country attended, scouting for potential sidekicks and future partners. Class 1A waited in the prep area, tension and excitement mixing. Izuku could feel everyone's nervous energy. First years. Time for the player pledge. Midnight's voice boomed across the stadium. They filed out into the arena. The roar of the crowd was deafening. Izuku scanned the audience. He spotted his mom in the stands, waving frantically, smiled and waved back. Present Mike's voice echoed across the stadium. And now, the student pledge, representing the first years, Izuku Midoriya from Class 1A. Wait, what? Apparently, he'd placed first in the entrance exam rankings. That meant he gave the pledge. Izuku walked to the podium, looking out at thousands of expectant faces. He kept it simple. We're here to prove ourselves, to show that we deserve to be heroes. I'm going to give everything I have, and I know everyone here will do the same. Let's make this a festival worth remembering. Short, confident, to the point. The crowd cheered. Bakugo looked furious at not being chosen for the pledge. Todoroki's expression remained neutral, but his eyes tracked Izuku with increased intensity. The first event is the obstacle race. Midnight announced, a 4-kilometer course around the stadium. Anything goes as long as you stay on the course. On your marks. All the first years crowded at the starting gate. Hundreds of students from all courses, everyone trying to position themselves advantageously. Get set. Izuku settled into a ready position. He wouldn't use Demon Mark for this. No need to waste energy on the first event. Just speed and strategy. Go! The starting gate was a deliberate bottleneck, immediately creating chaos as students tried to force their way through. Izuku used his smaller size to slip through gaps, making quick progress. Then, Todoroki made his move. The dual quirk user froze the entire corridor, creating a massive ice wall that blocked most competitors and left the ground treacherously slippery. Students crashed into each other or fell on the ice. Izuku leaped onto the wall itself, running along its top edge with the balance he'd honed through years of training. Several other students managed to navigate the ice. Yaoyorozu created ice cleats, Bakugo used explosions to propel himself over, Kirishima just smashed through with his hardened body, The first obstacle appeared, massive robots left over from the entrance exam. These were the zero-pointers, towering machines that most students would struggle to damage. Todoroki didn't even slow down. He created a massive ice ramp, froze the nearest robot's legs mid-step, and surfed past as the machine toppled. Izuku took a different approach. As one robot swung its massive fist toward him, he positioned himself perfectly and activated full counter. The machine's own attack force reflected back, tearing its arm off. The robot stumbled, creating an opening. Other students fought or evaded the robots using various creative methods. The competition was fierce. The second obstacle was the fall, a massive chasm crossed only by tight ropes and platforms held up by pillars. One wrong step meant elimination. Again, Todoroki showed his overwhelming power, creating an ice path across the entire obstacle. Brilliant, but it left him in first place with everyone targeting him. Izuku ran across the tight ropes with practiced balance, using his momentum to leap between platforms. Bakugo flew overhead using explosions. Uraraka made herself weightless and jumped the entire distance. The final obstacle appeared, a minefield. Pink smoke marked where each mine was hidden. Careful students could navigate through by watching for the markers. Fast students could try to blast through and tank the explosions. Todoroki created another ice path, setting off mines as he went, but shielding himself with more ice. Others picked their way through carefully. Izuku saw an opportunity. He sprinted into the minefield deliberately, using full counter on every mine that exploded near him. The reflected blast force propelled him forward, gaining massive speed. It was dangerous. One mistimed counter and he'd take a direct hit, but his reflexes were up to the task. He rocketed past other competitors, using the mines themselves as a boost system. The crowd went wild as he caught up to Todoroki. The two of them entered the final stretch neck and neck, both moving at incredible speed. Behind them, Bakugo was gaining fast, explosions propelling him with reckless intensity. The finish line was 50 meters away. 40. 30. Todoroki created one final ice wave to boost his speed. Bakugo fired his biggest explosion yet. Izuku countered a mine perfectly, the reflected force giving him one last burst. They crossed simultaneously, or so close that it required a photo finish. The stadium went silent, waiting for the results. First place by 0.03 seconds. Izuku Midoriya. The crowd exploded. Izuku allowed himself a small smile. Todoroki looked frustrated, but nodded respectfully. Bakugo was absolutely fuming. As the rest of the competitors finished, Izuku caught his breath and prepared for the next event. This was only the beginning. The second event is Cavalry Battle. Midnight explained the rules. Teams of 2 to 4 members, one rider on top carrying a headband worth points based on placement. Steal other teams' headbands while protecting your own. The rider's headband was their team's points total. And the person in first place, Midoriya, your headband is worth 10 million points. The stadium went crazy. Every student's eyes locked onto Izuku. He smiled. This was going to be interesting. Students immediately started forming teams. Everyone wanted to either join Izuku or hunt him. He needed teammates who could handle the pressure. Midoriya! Uraraka rushed over. Team up? Absolutely. Izuku appreciated her mobility. Zero gravity would be crucial for maneuvering. I'll join. Ashido appeared, grinning. My acid can create barriers and slippery surfaces, good for defense. One more member. Izuku scanned the available students. Most had already formed teams or were too intimidated by the target on his back. Then someone unexpected approached. You need a fourth? Jiru asked, her earphone jacks twitching. I can handle reconnaissance and attacks from range. Perfect. Izuku's team was set. Uraraka for mobility, Ashido for defense, Jiru for reconnaissance and ranged attack. I'll ride. Everyone else focus on defense and maneuvering. Let them come to us. We'll counter when they overextend. The cavalry battle began with immediate chaos. Multiple teams rushed toward Izuku, desperate to claim the 10 million points. Left side! Jiru called out, her jack sensing movement. Ashido sprayed acid, creating a slippery barrier. The attacking team slid past, unable to stop. Above! Uraraka warned. A team using quirks for flight dove from overhead. Izuku waited until they were committed, then used full counter on their grab attempt. The reflected force sent them spinning away. Team after team attacked. Izuku's group moved like a well-oiled machine, defending and countering every assault. But the constant pressure was wearing them down. Todoroki's team made their move, him as rider, with Yaoyorozu, Ida, and Kaminari as horses. They approached with calculated precision. "Kaminari, now!" Todoroki commanded. Electricity burst from Kaminari's body, a wide-area attack. Yaoyorozu had created an insulated sheet to protect their team. Izuku activated Counter Vanish, dispersing the electrical attack before it could hit. But Todoroki used the distraction to attack with ice, creating a frozen barrier that separated Izuku's team from the others. Engine boost. Ida's quirk roared to life, propelling Todoroki's team forward at incredible speed. Todoroki's hand reached for Izuku's headband. Their eyes met. This was it. Izuku grabbed Todoroki's wrist, holding it inches from the 10 million points. Not yet. Using all his strength, Izuku twisted, throwing Todoroki off balance. His other hand shot out, snatching one of Todoroki's lower point headbands. Both teams separated, breathing hard. The timer hit 0. "Time's up!" Midnight announced the results. Izuku's team had kept the 10 million and stolen points from several other teams, placing first. Todoroki's team was second. Bakugo's team, which had aggressively stolen points from everyone, was third. A team led by Shinso from General Studies surprised everyone by making fourth. The top 4 teams advanced to the finals. The final event is one-on-one tournament battles. The bracket was displayed on a massive screen. First round, Izuku Midoriya versus Hitoshi Shinso, Katsuki Bakugo versus Eijiro Kirishima, Shoto Todoroki versus Denki Kaminari, Tenya Ida versus Ibara Shiozaki. The winner would be UA's first-year champion. Izuku studied his opponent, Shinso from General Studies, the purple-haired kid with heavy bags under his eyes. His quirk was listed as brainwashing, which meant Izuku couldn't respond to any verbal provocation. The match started. Shinso immediately tried to bait him. "You're the one everyone's talking about? You don't look so tough. Bet you got lucky." Izuku remained silent, advancing carefully. "What, cat got your tongue, or are you too scared to talk?" Still no response. Izuku closed the distance. Shinso's expression shifted from confident to frustrated. "Damn it, you know about my quirk." Without his brainwashing trigger, Shinso was just a regular person in a fistfight with someone who'd trained for years. Izuku moved in quickly, landing a solid punch to Shinso's gut, followed by a sweep that put him on the ground. "Ring out!" Midnight announced. Midoriya advances. It was over in 30 seconds, almost anticlimactic. Shinso looked up from the ground, breathing hard. "You didn't even use your quirk." "Didn't need to." Izuku offered his hand. "Your brainwashing is powerful. In a real hero scenario with hostages or multiple opponents, you'd be incredibly effective. This format just didn't favor you." Shinso took the offered hand, letting Izuku pull him up. "Thanks. I guess. Still sucks to lose that fast." The other first-round matches were more dramatic. Bakugo versus Kirishima was an explosive slugfest, literally. Kirishima's hardening let him tank Bakugo's explosions for a while, but eventually the accumulated damage became too much. Bakugo won, but Kirishima earned massive respect for lasting 8 minutes against those relentless attacks. Todoroki versus Kaminari was one-sided. Kaminari fired off his electricity, but Todoroki encased him in ice instantly, ending the match. Ida versus Shiozaki was interesting, her vine hair versus his speed. Ida won through pure velocity, but the plant user's defensive capabilities were impressive semi-final matchups. Izuku Midoriya versus Katsuki Bakugo, Shoto Todoroki versus Tenya Ida. The stadium buzzed with anticipation. These were the matches everyone wanted to see. Izuku versus Bakugo was the rematch from battle training, but on a much bigger stage. The blonde was practically vibrating with aggression as they took their positions. "I'm going to destroy you," Bakugo growled. "No teammates to save you this time. No objectives to distract me, just you and me." "Works for me." Izuku settled into his fighting stance. "Begin!" Bakugo exploded forward immediately, firing a massive blast from his right palm. Izuku activated full counter, reflecting it back. But Bakugo had anticipated this. He'd already dodged his own reflected attack and was coming in from a different angle. Smart, he'd learned. Bakugo's attacks came in rapid succession from multiple angles, using explosions to propel himself around the arena at high speed. He deliberately mixed weak blasts with strong ones, making it hard to know which ones were worth countering. Izuku adapted, using counter vanish on the weak attacks and full counter only on the powerful ones. The reflected explosions forced Bakugo to constantly adjust his positioning. "Stop hiding behind your quirk," Bakugo roared, firing even more aggressively. I'm not hiding. I'm fighting smart. Izuku caught a massive explosion with full counter, sending it back at triple force. Bakugo took the hit head-on, his costume smoking, but his grin manic. That's more like it. They clashed in close combat, Izuku's martial arts against Bakugo's aggressive brawling. Explosions punctuated every exchange. The arena floor cracked from the impacts. 5 minutes in, both were breathing hard. Bakugo's palms were smoking from overuse. Izuku had taken some hits that full counter couldn't deflect. Then Bakugo made a mistake. He wound up his biggest explosion yet, putting everything into one devastating attack aimed directly at Izuku's center mass. Too committed. Too obvious. Izuku's hand came up. Full counter! The explosion reversed with 4 times its original force. Izuku had enhanced the reflection by timing it perfectly with Bakugo's release. The blast engulfed the blonde completely, sending him flying across the arena. Bakugo hit the ground hard. His costume shredded, smoke rising from his body. He tried to stand, got halfway up, and collapsed. Bakugo is unable to continue. Midoriya advances to the finals. The crowd roared. Izuku walked over to where Bakugo lay, the blonde's eyes still conscious but body unresponsive. "You're strong," Izuku said honestly. "One of the strongest people I've fought, but you need to think more strategically. Raw power isn't enough at the highest levels." Bakugo's response was a weak growl of frustration before medical robots carried him away. The second semifinal was equally intense. Todoroki created massive ice structures instantly, trying to overwhelm Ida with sheer volume. But Ida's Recipro Burst, a speed technique that pushed his quirk to its limits, let him dodge the ice and close the distance. For a moment, it looked like speed might triumph over power. Then Todoroki did something unexpected. Fire erupted from his left side. The quirk he'd said wasn't relevant, the half he never used. Combined with his ice, he created a devastating thermal attack that Ida couldn't dodge. The match ended with Ida frozen in a glacier of ice, Todoroki standing victorious but looking emotionally conflicted about using his fire. Todoroki advances to the finals. The finals were 30 minutes away. Izuku was in the waiting room, meditating to conserve energy when someone knocked. Todoroki entered without waiting for permission. "Midoriya, we need to talk." Izuku opened his eyes. "About?" "Your quirk isn't just counter, is it? I saw the footage from the USJ. That transformation, those black flames, you have multiple abilities. And your quirk isn't just ice," Izuku countered. "You used fire against Ida. Why hide it until now?" Todoroki's jaw clenched. "The fire is my father's power. I refuse to use it except when absolutely necessary." "Your father? You mean Endeavor?" Izuku had seen the number 2 hero in the stands, watching with intense focus. "He's obsessed with surpassing All Might. He married my mother for her ice quirk, trying to create a child who could beat the symbol of peace. I'm that child, a tool he made for his own ambition." Todoroki's voice was flat, but pain lurked beneath. "I refuse to use his power. I'll win with my ice alone, rejecting everything he forced on me." Izuku absorbed this. "That's your choice, but you're handicapping yourself out of spite." "It's about more than spite. It's exactly about spite." Izuku stood, meeting Todoroki's eyes. "You're so focused on rejecting your father that you're rejecting yourself. That fire is yours, not his. Using it doesn't mean accepting his methods or dreams. It means accepting who you are." Todoroki stared at him, clearly conflicted. "But like I said, it's your choice." Izuku headed toward the door. "In the finals, I'm going to use everything I have. I hope you'll do the same. Not for your father, but for yourself." The stadium was at maximum capacity. Every seat filled, every eye watching. Izuku and Todoroki faced each other in the center of the arena, both battered from previous matches, but ready for one more fight. "This is it," Present Mike's voice boomed. "The final match to determine UA's first-year champion. On one side, the student who defeated a villain built to kill All Might, Izuku Midoriya. On the other, the son of the number 2 hero with overwhelming elemental power, Shoto Todoroki." Midnight raised her arm. "Final match. Begin." Todoroki immediately created a massive ice wave, the kind that had ended several of his previous matches instantly. The temperature in the stadium dropped noticeably. Izuku's hand came up. "Counter vanish!" The ice dispersed before it could reach him, breaking into harmless frost. He charged forward while Todoroki was committed to the attack. Todoroki created ice pillars to block Izuku's path, then more ice to attack from multiple angles. Izuku dodged some, dispersed others, and closed the distance relentlessly. They clashed in close combat. Todoroki created ice gauntlets to enhance his punches. Izuku countered the quirk-enhanced strikes, sending Todoroki stumbling back. "Is this really all you've got?" Izuku called out. "You're holding back. I can tell." "I don't need that power to beat you." Todoroki fired more ice, increasingly desperate as Izuku neutralized every attack. "It's not about needing it. It's about everything you are." Izuku pressed forward. "Stop fighting with half your strength." They exchanged blows, neither giving ground. Todoroki's ice was powerful but predictable. Izuku's counters were effective but couldn't land a decisive hit against someone so skilled at defensive ice creation. The stalemate continued for 3 minutes. 4. 5. Then Izuku made his decision. He stopped attacking, just stood there, hands at his sides. "What are you doing?" Todoroki demanded. "I'm waiting for you to fight for real." Izuku's voice carried across the arena. "You said you wanted to face me properly someday. This is that day, so stop holding back." "I told you, I don't need." "It's not about need." Izuku's shout silenced the stadium. "It's about respect. You think fighting me at half strength is respect? You think I came this far to fight someone who won't give their all?" Todoroki's hands trembled. Ice and frost swirled around him. "That power is yours," Izuku continued. "Not your father's, not anyone else's. Yours. Stop letting his actions dictate your choices. Be your own hero." Something in Todoroki broke, or maybe something healed. His left side ignited, flames roaring to life. The ice on his right side intensified. Both quirks active, both at full power. The temperature in the stadium went haywire, freezing on one side, blazing on the other. Todoroki looked up, and for the first time, Izuku saw real emotion in those heterochromatic eyes. "Thank you." Then the real battle began. Todoroki unleashed a combined attack, ice and fire together, creating a devastating thermal wave. Izuku used full counter, but the sheer power was overwhelming. He was pushed back, his feet digging trenches in the arena floor. They exchanged attacks that shook the stadium. Todoroki's dual elements versus Izuku's counters and martial arts. The fight was intense, brutal, beautiful, but Izuku could feel Todoroki tiring. Using both quirks at once was draining him fast. And Izuku had one more card to play. He'd been conserving his energy for this exact moment. The demon mark appeared on his forehead. Dark power surged through Izuku's body. His presence intensified, the air growing heavy around him. The crowd gasped. Many remembered this transformation from the USJ footage. Todoroki's eyes widened. "What?" Izuku moved at triple speed, closing the distance before Todoroki could react. His punch, enhanced by demonic power, shattered through Todoroki's ice defense. His next strike sent Todoroki flying. The dual quirk user tried to recover, firing his biggest combination attack, absolute zero ice and maximum temperature flames simultaneously. Izuku's hand caught both elements. Full counter. The reflected attack, enhanced by demon mark power, was catastrophic. The explosion of conflicting thermal energy erupted with the force of a bomb. The arena cracked. The protective barrier shimmered. When the dust cleared, Todoroki was down, unconscious from the force of his own attack reflected back. Izuku stood victorious, the demon mark still glowing on his forehead before fading as he released the transformation. Todoroki is unable to continue. The winner and UAS first-year champion, Izuku Midoriya. The stadium exploded with cheers. Izuku walked over to Todoroki, who was being attended by medical robots. The dual quirk user's eyes flickered open. "I lost," Todoroki said, almost wondering. "You fought with everything you had. That's what matters." Izuku extended his hand. Todoroki took it, letting Izuku help him to his feet. For the first time, he smiled. Small, but genuine. As they walked off the field together, Izuku spotted Endeavor in the stands. The flame hero looked furious, probably upset that Todoroki had used the fire quirk. But Todoroki didn't look at his father. He kept his eyes forward, standing straighter despite his injuries. Something had changed in him. The awards ceremony was simple. All Might presented the medals personally. Third place went to Ida and Bakugo, who'd tied in the third place match, both refusing to participate because they felt they'd failed. Second place went to Todoroki, who accepted his medal with quiet dignity. First place, young Midoriya. All Might's voice boomed as he placed the gold medal around Izuku's neck. "You showed outstanding skill, determination, and the spirit of a true hero. You gave everyone here something to remember. The crowd cheered. Cameras flashed. Izuku stood on the first place platform, looking out at thousands of people. This was just the beginning. The week after the sports festival was chaos. Izuku received over 300 internship offers from pro-hero agencies. His performance had made him one of the most sought-after students in UA's history. The offers range from small local agencies to top-tier heroes like Edge-a-Shot and Best Jeanist. He chose carefully, eventually selecting Gran Torino, All Might's former teacher, a retired hero known for brutal but effective training methods. "You want to understand your power better," Gran Torino had said during their meeting. "I can help with that, but I won't go easy on you. I wouldn't want you to." The internship would start in 2 days. Before that, Izuku had one more thing to do. He visited Hosu City. The city was known for its high villain activity, making it a hotspot for hero work. Ida had chosen to intern there with a hero called Manuel, though Izuku suspected it was because the hero killer, Stain, had been spotted in the area. Ida's brother, Ingenium, had been attacked by Stain and left paralyzed. Ida was probably planning revenge. Izuku walked through Hosu's streets as evening fell, his hero costume hidden under casual clothes. He wasn't officially on duty, but something felt off. The streets were too quiet for a city this size. Then he heard it, fighting, several blocks away. He ran. The alley was dark, lit only by distant streetlights. 3 people were on the ground, paralyzed. Ida stood facing a man in a tattered costume and red scarf. Stain, the hero killer himself. "Ida," Izuku called out, entering the alley. "Midoriya? No. Get away." His quirk. Stain moved like a ghost, but his blade slashing toward Izuku's arm. But Izuku had seen the attack coming, his combat instincts screaming danger. He dodged, creating distance. Another fake hero. Stain's voice was gravelly, intense. "You're all the same, playing at heroism for fame and glory." "You don't know anything about me," Izuku said calmly, assessing the situation. Stain's quirk was clearly some kind of paralysis activated by ingesting blood. The 3 people on the ground must have been cut and licked. "I know. Oh, enough. You won that sports festival. I watched you fight for glory, for recognition." Stain's eyes burned with fanatical intensity. "You're not a true hero." "And you are? Murdering people in alleys?" Izuku's voice hardened. "That's not heroism. That's terrorism. I'm culling the impure. Only those who save others selflessly, who embody the true spirit of heroism like All Might, deserve to live." Stain lunged, his blade aimed at Izuku's throat. Izuku activated full counter on the knife strike. The blade's force reversed, sending Stain stumbling back in surprise. "Interesting quirk," Stain acknowledged, recovering instantly. "But countering attacks won't save you when I don't give you time to react." What followed was one of the most intense fights Izuku had ever experienced. Stain was fast, not superhuman fast, but skilled and experienced. His movements were efficient, each strike potentially lethal. He used the environment, the darkness, his knowledge of combat to create openings. Izuku matched him move for move, his training and reflexes keeping him alive. He couldn't risk being cut. One successful blood ingestion and he'd be paralyzed like Ida. They clashed in the narrow alley, blade against fist, killing intent against determined heroism. "You're better than most," Stain admitted, pressing his attack. "But you're still fighting for yourself. I can see it in your eyes. Ambition, desire for recognition." "Of course I want recognition." Izuku dodged a slash, countered with a palm strike that Stain barely avoided. "I want people to know they can count on me. That's not wrong. It's corruption." Stain's blade found Izuku's shoulder, cutting shallow but drawing blood. Izuku felt Stain's tongue lash out, tasting the blood. Then, nothing happened. Stain's eyes widened in confusion. "Impossible. My quirk should have paralyzed me?" Izuku felt something stirring inside, that dark presence, responding to foreign influence. Maybe it doesn't work on everyone. The truth clicked in Izuku's mind. Stain's quirk affected normal human physiology, but Izuku's demon power, even dormant, had changed him on a fundamental level. His blood, his body, they weren't entirely human anymore. Stain's paralysis couldn't grip what wasn't fully human. Taking advantage of Stain's shock, Izuku pressed his attack. Close combat, fast strikes, no giving the hero killer time to think or adapt. But Stain was a survivor. He created distance, pulled out more knives, and fought even more desperately. "What are you?" Stain demanded. his fanaticism cracking to show genuine confusion. Someone who's going to stop you. The demon mark appeared on Izuku's forehead. Power flooded through his body. His speed tripled. His strength multiplied. Stain's eyes widened. He'd seen the USJ footage, knew what this transformation meant. The hero killer threw everything he had at Izuku. Knives, swords, even a small throwing weapon that exploded. Izuku batted them aside, his enhanced reflexes making Stain's attacks seem slow. "You're a demon," Stain whispered, recognition dawning. "Not human, not pure. You're still more of a hero than you'll ever be." Izuku's fist, wreathed in hellblaze, drove into Stain's chest. The black flames burned, preventing any regeneration quirk the hero killer might have possessed. Stain flew backward, crashing into the alley wall. He tried to rise, failed, collapsed. The fight was over. Izuku released his transformation, breathing hard. Behind him, Ida's paralysis was wearing off. The other victims were starting to move. "Midoriya." Ida's voice was weak. "Thank you. I was so focused on revenge, I didn't think. Save it for later." Izuku pulled out his phone, calling the heroes and police. "You're alive. That's what matters." When the authorities arrived, they found Stain unconscious and bound, 3 civilians safe, and 2 students who'd fought off the hero killer. The news coverage was immediate and massive. "Hero killer defeated by UA student" read every headline. Izuku's name was everywhere again, like his fame reaching new heights. But he didn't care about the recognition. He stood on a Hosu rooftop later that night, looking out at the city. The demon mark's power thrummed beneath his skin, always present now that he understood it. His quirk wasn't counter. It was something far older, far more powerful. Demonic in nature, possibly dating back to before quirks even existed. He had so many questions about his power's origin, about what he was becoming, about how far these abilities could grow, but he also had answers. He was strong enough to save people, to defeat villains that threatened others, to stand among the greatest heroes. His phone buzzed. A text from All Might. "Well done, young Midoriya. You've proven yourself again. But remember, with great power comes great responsibility. Never forget what it means to be a hero." Izuku smiled, typing back a response. "I won't. I promise." The city lights sparkled below as somewhere out there other villains plotted, other threats emerged. The world was dangerous, chaotic, full of challenges. Izuku Midoriya was ready for all of it. The journey was just beginning. His mother would be proud of how far he'd come, but also worried about the darkness he carried within. That was the nature of parents, loving unconditionally while fearing for their children's safety. Izuku's phone buzzed again. This time it was from Todoroki. "You saved Ida's life. Thank you. Also, your power during that fight was incredible. We should train together sometime." "Then Urg, are you okay?" "I saw the news. That was so brave." "Ashido? Dude, you fought the hero killer and won? You're officially the coolest person in class. Even Bakugo sent something, though characteristically brief. Don't get killed doing stupid shit." Izuku smiled, pocketing his phone. His classmates cared, even if some showed it differently than others. That connection, that bond forged through shared experiences at UA, meant everything. The wind picked up, carrying the scent of the city below. Somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed. Heroes responding to incidents, criminals plotting their next moves, civilians living their lives unaware of the constant struggle between order and chaos. This was the world Izuku had chosen to protect, and he was strong enough to do it. The internship with Gran Torino began 2 days later, and within the first hour, Izuku understood why All Might had recommended him. The old hero moved like lightning despite his age, appearing behind Izuku and kicking him through 3 walls before he could react. Too slow. Gran Torino's voice echoed through the destroyed training room. "Your demon powers make you strong, but you're telegraphing your movements. A real villain won't give you time to think." Izuku pulled himself from the rubble, wiping blood from his lip. Again. They went again, and again, and again. Gran Torino's jet quirk allowed him to move at incredible speeds, bouncing off surfaces unpredictably. Fighting him was like fighting a pinball with malicious intent. Every time Izuku thought he'd figured out the pattern, Gran Torino changed it. "Your full counter is reactive," Gran Torino explained during a brief water break. "You wait for attacks to come to you. That's fine against straightforward opponents, but what about someone who never commits? Someone who feints, probes, baits you into wasting energy?" "I adapt," Izuku said, breathing hard. Not fast enough. Watch. Gran Torino attacked again, but this time every strike was a feint. Izuku's hand came up for full counter 3 times, and 3 times there was nothing to counter. The 4th time, when Izuku hesitated, Gran Torino's real attack came, a vicious kick to the ribs that sent Izuku sprawling. See? You're learning to doubt yourself. That hesitation will get you killed. Over the next week, Gran Torino pushed Izuku harder than anyone had before. The training wasn't just physical, it was mental, tactical, psychological. Gran Torino attacked at random times, even during meals. He created scenarios where Izuku's usual techniques wouldn't work. He forced Izuku to think 3 steps ahead while moving at full speed, and slowly, Izuku improved. His reflexes sharpened, his combat instincts became faster. He learned to read micro-movements to predict attacks before they fully developed. His demon mark activation became smoother, requiring less conscious effort. By the end of the internship, Izuku could hold his own against Gran Torino for nearly 10 minutes before being overwhelmed. You're getting there, the old hero admitted, looking genuinely impressed. Your power is extraordinary, but it's your willingness to learn that'll make you great. Keep training, keep pushing, and remember, strength without wisdom is just destruction waiting to happen. Izuku bowed deeply. Thank you, Gran Torino-sensei, for everything. Don't thank me yet. The real challenges are still ahead. How right he was. Final exams at UA were designed to test students against the teachers themselves. Izuku was paired with Todoroki against Aizawa, a challenging matchup given the pro hero's erasure quirk. The moment the exam began, Aizawa's eyes glowed red, and Izuku felt his demon mark power fade, inaccessible. His enhanced physical abilities remained. Those were permanent changes to his body, not active quirk use, but full counter and his other techniques were sealed. Interesting, Izuku muttered, dodging Aizawa's capture weapon. Todoroki, he can only erase what he can see. Stay mobile, create obstacles with your ice. Todoroki nodded, unleashing a wave of ice that blocked Aizawa's line of sight. The moment the erasure broke, Izuku felt his power return. He created a burst of hellblaze, forcing Aizawa to dodge, then deactivated it before the hero could counter-erase. They worked in tandem, Todoroki creating barriers and attacking from range, while Izuku pressed close combat whenever Aizawa's attention shifted. The strategy was sound. Divide his focus, never give him a clear target for prolonged erasure. After 8 minutes of intense back and forth, they managed to get Aizawa into a position where Todoroki's ice locked his movement and Izuku could land the finishing blow. Pass, Aizawa said simply, his capture weapon dissolving the ice restraints. You adapted well to having your primary abilities negated. That tactical flexibility will serve you in the field. Other pairs had mixed results. Bakugo and Kirishima barely passed against All Might. The symbol of peace held back significantly, but his overwhelming power still pushed them to their limits. Yaoyorozu and Todoroki's previous match had been rough, but she'd learned from it. The practical exams concluded with most students passing. Those who failed would attend supplementary lessons during summer break. For those who passed, we have something special planned, Aizawa announced, his usual tired expression somehow looking even more exhausted. A training camp in the mountains, 1 week of intensive quirk development away from the city. Prepare yourselves, it won't be easy. The class erupted into excited chatter. A training camp meant pushing their limits, developing new techniques, and growing stronger. For Izuku, it meant another opportunity to master his demonic abilities. He was ready. The forest training camp was located deep in the mountains, surrounded by dense woods and far from any civilization. The Wild Wild Pussycats, a team of 4 pro heroes specializing in mountain rescue, ran the facility. Welcome, UA students. Pixie Bob, one of the Pussycats, greeted them with manic enthusiasm. We're going to work you so hard you'll forget what rest feels like. Isn't that exciting? Mandalay, the team leader, smiled more calmly. The goal here is to push your quirks beyond their current limits. We'll be training from sunrise to sunset, focusing on developing new applications and increasing your stamina. Ragdoll bounced excitedly. I've already analyzed all your quirks with my search. This is going to be so much fun. Tiger, the lone male member, just cracked his knuckles menacingly. The training began immediately. No rest after the bus ride, no settling in. The Pussycats threw them directly into quirk exercises designed to exhaust and challenge. For Izuku, this meant maintaining his demon mark for extended periods while performing complex combat maneuvers. Pixie Bob created earth golems for him to fight, each one progressively stronger and faster. "Your transformation is impressive," she called out, watching him demolish another golem with Hellblaze enhanced strikes. "But you're still treating it like an on-off switch? Try modulating the power output, use just enough for each situation." Izuku paused, considering. She was right. He either fought normal or activated full demon mark. There was no middle ground. What if he could partially transform? Use just 20% of the demonic power instead of all or nothing? He focused, feeling the dark energy inside him. Instead of fully releasing it, he let just a trickle flow through his body. The demon mark appeared faintly on his forehead, barely visible, and his physical abilities increased by maybe 50% instead of the usual 300. "There you go." Pixie Bob grinned, creating more golems. "Now fight at that level. Conserve your energy, extend your endurance." The partial transformation was harder to maintain than full power. It required constant concentration to keep the energy flow steady. But after an hour of practice, Izuku started getting the hang of it. He could operate at different power levels now. 20% for extended patrols, 50% for serious threats, full power for emergencies. The versatility was invaluable. "You're a quick learner," Pixie Bob commented during a water break, standing perhaps a bit closer than strictly necessary. That kind of adaptability is rare, especially in first years. "I have good teachers," Izuku replied, catching his breath. "Your earth constructs are incredibly detailed. The way you vary their movement patterns keeps me from getting comfortable." "Flattery will get you everywhere," she laughed, her tail swishing playfully. "But seriously, your combat instincts are top tier. Most students your age either overthink or don't think at all. You've found a balance." Gran Torino beat it into me, literally. They talked for a few more minutes, Pixie Bob asking about his training, and Izuku explaining Gran Torino's brutal but effective methods. She was easy to talk to, energetic, and genuinely interested in hero development. When training resumed, Izuku noticed her watching him with an approving smile. He'd made an impression. Good. Connections with pro heroes could only help his career. The days blurred together in a haze of exhaustion and growth. Every muscle screamed, every technique was pushed to its breaking point, every student collapsed into bed each night barely able to move. But they were getting stronger. Bakugo's explosions grew more powerful and controlled. Todoroki learned to use both his ice and fire simultaneously, without the conflicting temperatures destabilizing each other. Uraraka increased her weight limit significantly. Tokoyami trained Dark Shadow to operate in partial light. Izuku extended his partial demon mark duration to 3 hours before exhaustion set in. His Hellblaze became hot enough to melt steel in seconds. His darkness manipulation reached the point where he could create complex constructs, shields, weapons, even temporary platforms for aerial maneuvering. On the 4th night, after everyone else had gone to bed, Izuku stayed outside, practicing. He wanted to nail a new technique, combining full counter with darkness manipulation, to not just reflect attacks, but trap and redirect them through shadow portals. He was in the middle of testing the theory when Pixie Bob appeared, also apparently unable to sleep. "Burning the midnight oil?" she asked, sitting on a nearby boulder. "Can't help it. Every time I think I've figured something out, I realize there's another level to reach." That's the mark of a real hero, never satisfied with good enough. She watched him create a sphere of darkness, collapsing and reforming it. "You know, I've worked with a lot of students over the years. Most of them have power or talent. Very few have both, plus the drive to use them properly. You're special, Midoriya. I just want to save people, to be strong enough that nobody has to be afraid. Noble goal. Also impossibly ambitious, but that's what makes it worth pursuing." Pixie Bob stood, stretching. "Get some sleep soon, okay? Even heroes need rest, especially young ones who are still growing." "I will. Just a few more minutes." She started walking back toward the facility, then paused. "Hey, Midoriya, when you graduate and start your hero career for real, you should consider mountain rescue work. You've got the power for combat, sure, but also the precision for delicate operations. It's something to think about." "I'll keep that in mind. Thanks. Pixie Bob." She waved and disappeared into the building. Izuku practiced for another 20 minutes, finally landing the shadow portal redirect technique on his 15th attempt. The satisfaction of progress outweighed his exhaustion. Tomorrow would bring more training, more challenges, more growth. He couldn't wait. On the 5th night, everything went wrong. The class had just finished a test of courage exercise in the forest, a silly activity meant to let them relax a bit after days of intense training. Izuku was walking back with Todoroki when they smelled it. Smoke, not campfire smoke. This was thicker, darker, wrong. Blue flames erupted through the forest, unnaturally cold despite their fire nature. Students screamed. The Pussycats' voices rang out, ordering everyone to return to the facility. "It's an attack!" Mandalay's telepathic message hit everyone simultaneously. "We're under attack by villains. Those with provisional licenses may engage. Everyone else, return to camp immediately. This is not a drill." The League of Villains had found them. Izuku's demon mark activated instantly, black energy crackling around his body. "Todoroki, get the students to safety. I'm gonna find the attackers." "Like hell, you're going alone. Your ice can create barriers, protect people. My abilities are better for hunting villains in close quarters. Trust me." Todoroki hesitated, then nodded. "Don't die." Not planning on it. Izuku launched himself into the forest, using darkness manipulation to propel between trees at incredible speed. His enhanced senses picked up multiple hostile presences, at least a dozen villains scattered through the woods. He found the first one quickly. A villain who could control his teeth, firing them like projectiles. The man spotted Izuku and opened fire immediately. Full counter sent every tooth back at triple speed. The villain went down hard. The second villain had some kind of cloning ability when creating multiple copies of himself. They swarmed Izuku from all directions. Hellblaze erupted from Izuku's body in a sphere, the black flames incinerating every clone simultaneously. The real villain, caught in the blast, didn't get up. Third villain, a woman who could manipulate sand, creating a massive wave to crush Izuku. He created a darkness barrier, absorbed the impact, then used revenge counter. The stored kinetic energy released as a shockwave that sent the woman flying into a tree trunk, hard enough to crack the bark. Izuku moved through the forest like a demon of vengeance, taking down villain after villain. Most were small-time criminals, over-reliant on their quirks and lacking real combat training. Against his speed, power, and versatility, they didn't stand a chance. Then he encountered the real threat. Muscular stood in a clearing, his grotesquely enlarged muscle fibers bulging obscenely. The villain grinned when he saw Izuku, cracking his neck. "You're that kid from the news, the one who beat Stain. Perfect! I wanted a real fight tonight." "Who sent you?" Izuku demanded, darkness swirling around his hands. "The League, obviously. We're here to kidnap some students, cause chaos, show the world that UA isn't safe." Muscular flexed, his muscles expanding even further. "But honestly, I just want to fight strong opponents, and you smell strong, kid. Last chance. Leave now or..." Muscular attacked mid-sentence, crossing the distance between them in a single bound. His fist, enhanced by layers of muscle fiber, drove toward Izuku's face with enough force to pulverize concrete. Izuku's hand came up. Full counter! The reflected force should have sent Muscular flying. Instead, the villain absorbed it with his muscle fibers, grinning wider. "Nice try. My muscle augmentation can tank anything, so full counter alone wouldn't work." Fine. Izuku dodged the next punch, moving inside Muscular's guard. His fist, coated in Hellblaze, drove into the villain's exposed midsection. The black flames burned through the muscle fibers, and Muscular howled in pain. "That's more like it." Muscular roared, ignoring the burns and attacking with even more ferocity. They clashed in the clearing, trading blows that shook the ground. Muscular's raw power was immense. Each punch could shatter stone. But Izuku was faster, more technical, and had the versatility of multiple techniques. Hellblaze burned through muscle fibers. Full counter reflected the strongest attacks. Darkness manipulation created weapons and shields. Izuku's enhanced physical abilities let him match Muscular's strength blow for blow. The fight raged for 3 minutes of pure violence. Muscular's muscle fibers regenerated as fast as Izuku burned them. Every full counter was absorbed and tanked. The villain's stamina seemed limitless. "This is great." Muscular laughed, blood streaming from multiple wounds. "Finally, someone who can take a real beating." Izuku analyzed the situation. Muscular's muscle augmentation had limits. There had to be a breaking point where the fibers couldn't regenerate fast enough. He needed one decisive strike with enough power to overwhelm the villain's defenses completely. Time to stop holding back. Izuku let his demon mark power surge to maximum, dark energy erupting around his body like a visible aura. The temperature dropped, the air grew heavy. Even Muscular paused, sensing the shift in power. "Now we're talking," the villain roared, his muscle fibers bulging to their absolute limit. "Show me what you've got, hero!" Muscular charged with everything he had, a devastating punch backed by his full augmented strength. Izuku didn't dodge, didn't counter, he took the hit directly, letting the tremendous force drive into his body. Pain exploded through his chest, ribs cracking, but he held his ground. The damage accumulated, stored, concentrated. Muscular's eyes widened as he realized what Izuku was doing. Revenge counter! The stored damage released as a focused explosion of kinetic energy, point blank into Muscular's chest. The villain's muscle fibers tried to absorb it, tried to tank it like everything else. They couldn't. The sheer force overwhelmed Muscular's defenses completely, the kinetic shockwave tearing through his augmented muscles and slamming him into the ground with apocalyptic impact. The clearing cratered from the force. Trees toppled. The earth cracked. When the dust settled, Muscular lay unconscious in a crater, his muscle fibers deflated and his body broken. Izuku stood over him, breathing hard, his ribs screaming in pain, but his eyes sharp. You wanted a real fight. Hope it was worth it. He used darkness manipulation to bind Muscular's unconscious form, ensuring the villain couldn't escape even if he woke up, then moved on. There were still other villains in the forest, still students in danger. The night was far from over. Izuku found Bakugo and Todoroki fighting back-to-back against a villain who could create toxic gas. The three of them worked together, Todoroki's ice freezing the gas, Bakugo's explosions dispersing it, and Izuku's full counter sending the villain's own attack back into his face. They regrouped with other students near the facility, where the Pussycats were coordinating defense. Mandalay had a nasty cut across her arm but was still fighting. Tiger was grappling with a massive villain twice his size. Pixie Bob had created earth walls protecting the younger students. Status? Izuku asked, landing beside Mandalay. We're holding, but they keep coming. At least 15 villains, maybe more. Their goal seems to be kidnapping specific students. Her telepathy had identified the targets. Bakugo, primarily, but also Tokoyami and surprisingly Izuku himself. They want me? You defeated their Nomu. Apparently that pissed someone off. Mandalay's expression was grim. We've called for hero backup, but they're 20 minutes out. We need to hold until then. We will. The next 15 minutes were chaos. Villains attacked in waves, some trying to breach the defenses, others attempting to snatch students during the confusion. The Pussycats fought valiantly, but they were outnumbered and exhausted from protecting the students while engaging multiple threats. Izuku was everywhere at once, countering attacks, burning villains with Hellblaze, using darkness manipulation to create barriers and weapons. His partial demon mark let him fight efficiently without draining himself too quickly. Then the villain with the warp quirk, Kurogiri, appeared. Time to go, the mist villain announced. Creating portals around several students, Bakugo was pulled through before anyone could react. Tokoyami, losing control of Dark Shadow in the chaos, was also grabbed. The portal reached for Izuku. He created a darkness barrier, blocking the warp gate. Not happening. Kurogiri's voice held surprise. Fascinating. Your darkness negates my portals? Seems like it. They stared at each other for a long moment, the battle raging around them. Then Kurogiri made his decision. Another time, then. The portals closed, and the remaining villains began retreating through warp gates. Within seconds, the forest fell silent, except for the groans of injured students and the crackling of flames. The League had escaped with 2 captives. Izuku slammed his fist into a tree trunk, frustration burning through him. Damn it! It's not your fault, Todoroki said quietly. You saved most of us. That counts. But it didn't feel like enough. The hero backup arrived 18 minutes later, too late to help, but in time to secure the area and begin rescue operations. Injured students were rushed to hospitals. The captured villains were hauled away. The Pussycats coordinated with police to document everything. Pixie Bob found Izuku sitting alone near the forest edge, staring at the destruction. Hey, she said softly, sitting beside him. "You did good tonight. Really good." 2 students were taken. I couldn't stop it. You fought off at least 7 villains single-handedly, protected dozens of students, and defeated one of their heavy hitters. Sometimes doing everything right still isn't enough to save everyone. She bumped his shoulder gently. That's the hardest lesson in hero work, accepting that you can't save them all, no matter how strong you get. I refuse to accept that. Then you'll drive yourself crazy. Or you'll get strong enough to actually pull it off. She smiled slightly. Given how you fought tonight, I'm betting on the latter. You're going to be amazing, Midoriya. Just don't lose yourself chasing perfection. They sat in silence for a while, the weight of the night settling over them. Eventually, Pixie Bob stood. We're going to find them. Bakugo and Tokoyami. The heroes are already planning a rescue operation, and knowing you, you'll find a way to be part of it. Count on it. She ruffled his hair affectionately. That's the spirit. Now come on, the medics want to check your ribs. Pretty sure Muscular broke at least 3 of them. 4, actually. Show off. Despite everything, Izuku smiled. The hideout raid happened 3 days later. All Might, several top heroes, and a carefully selected group of students infiltrated the League of Villains warehouse base. Officially, the students were there as observers. Unofficially, everyone knew they'd end up fighting. Izuku, Todoroki, Ida, Yaoyorozu, and Kirishima comprised the student contingent. All had proven themselves capable in combat, and all had personal reasons for being there. The plan was simple. Simultaneous assault from multiple entry points, overwhelming the villains before they could regroup or harm the hostages. It went wrong almost immediately. The League had anticipated the raid. Traps littered the warehouse. Lesser villains formed defensive positions, and in the center of the main room, All For One himself waited. The ancient villain looked almost frail, a man in a suit with a face hidden by a mask that covered everything except his mouth. But the power radiating from him was immense. Oppressive, terrifying. All Might, All For One greeted calmly. I was wondering when you'd arrive. Release the students. All Might's voice boomed, his muscular form tensed for battle. I don't think so. They're valuable bargaining chips, especially the boy with the demon power. All For One's masked gaze shifted to Izuku. So much potential, such interesting abilities. I'd very much like to study you, young Midoriya. Not happening. Izuku shot back, his demon mark already activating. We'll see. All For One raised his hand, and hell broke loose. Quirks erupted from the villain in a barrage: air manipulation, fire generation, kinetic force, energy blasts. Each one stolen from some hero or victim, now wielded with perfect synchronization. All Might charged forward, his incredible strength meeting All For One's combined quirks head-on. The collision shook the entire warehouse. Students, get the hostages and evacuate. The number 1 hero ordered, trading blows with his nemesis. But Izuku saw the trap. Lesser villains were moving to flank All Might to overwhelm him with numbers, while All For One kept him busy. If they didn't intervene, Todoroki, Yaoyorozu, secure Bakugo and Tokoyami, Kirishima, Ida, crowd control on the lesser villains. I'm helping All Might. Are you insane? Ida protested. That's All For One, the most dangerous villain alive, which is exactly why All Might needs backup. Izuku launched himself at the flanking villains, hellblaze erupting from his hands. The black flames forced them to scatter, disrupting their coordination. He moved like a demon through their ranks, full counter reflecting quirk attacks, darkness manipulation creating weapons that struck from unexpected angles, enhanced physicals letting him overwhelm opponents in close combat. Within 30 seconds, he'd incapacitated 4 villains. Then All For One's attention shifted to him. Impressive, the ancient villain said, casually deflecting one of All Might's punches. You fight with skill beyond your years. Tell me, boy, have you ever wondered where your power truly comes from? Izuku didn't answer, using the momentary distraction to land a Hellblaze-enhanced strike on another villain. Your demon abilities aren't a quirk in the traditional sense, are they? All For One continued, sounding genuinely curious despite the ongoing battle. There's something older, something that predates our modern understanding of superpowers. Fascinating. Shut up and fight, All Might roared, driving a massive punch into All For One's gut. The ancient villain absorbed the impact with multiple defensive quirks, then countered with a devastating combination attack. All Might took the hit, his muscle form flickering slightly. Izuku's blood ran cold. If All Might fell here, no. That wouldn't happen. He pushed his demon mark to maximum output, dark energy erupting around his body. The warehouse temperature dropped. Other heroes nearby felt the oppressive weight of his power and unconsciously stepped back. All for One turned his masked gaze fully to Izuku now. Interested. Oh? Full power already? Let me see what you're truly capable of, young Midoriya. The ancient villain fired a concentrated blast of combined quirks directly at Izuku, enough power to vaporize a normal person. Izuku's hands came up. Full counter. The attack reversed, doubled in power, and slammed back into All for One. The villain tanked it with a defensive quirk, but the force still sent him sliding backward. Excellent. More. What followed was a chaotic three-way battle, All Might and Izuku coordinating attacks against All for One, the ancient villain wielding dozens of stolen quirks simultaneously, and the warehouse crumbling around them from the sheer force of the conflict. Izuku learned quickly that All for One was beyond anything he'd faced before. The villain could counter any single technique, adapt to any strategy, and possessed seemingly limitless stamina. But fighting alongside All Might revealed something else. The symbol of Peace's true strength wasn't just his quirk. It was his unwavering determination, his tactical mind under pressure, and his ability to inspire others to push beyond their limits. Together, they pushed All for One back. Izuku would create openings with darkness manipulation. All Might would exploit them with devastating punches. When All for One focused on the number one hero, Izuku would hit him with Hellblaze or Revenge Counter. The coordination wasn't perfect, but it was effective. For the first time in the fight, All for One seemed genuinely pressured. This is what happens when heroes work together, All Might declared, his fist glowing with power. United States of Smash. The punch connected with All for One's face, the impact creating a shockwave that blew out every window in the warehouse. The ancient villain flew backward, crashing through multiple walls, but he wasn't finished. All for One rose from the rubble, his mask cracked but his power undiminished. You've grown stronger, All Might, and your student is formidable. But this isn't over, not by a long shot. Before anyone could respond, Kurogiri appeared, creating warp gates for All for One and the remaining villains. Another time, the ancient villain said calmly, when I'm properly prepared for your demon-powered protege. They escaped. The warehouse fell silent, except for heavy breathing and the crackling of flames. All Might's muscle form deflated, revealing his true emaciated state. He coughed blood, but smiled. We won, he said simply. Izuku looked around at the destruction. The rescued students, Bakugo and Tokoyami, had been freed by the other students during the chaos and the exhausted heroes. They'd won. But All for One was still out there, still planning, still dangerous. This wasn't over. The aftermath of the hideout raid was complicated. All Might's true form had been exposed to the students present, his emaciated state, the time limit on his power, the reality that the symbol of peace was more fragile than anyone knew. Don't tell anyone, he requested quietly. The world needs to believe in an invincible All Might. They agreed without hesitation. The media went crazy over the raid's success. Students help rescue kidnapped classmates. All Might and young heroes defeat League of Villains. Demon-powered student fights alongside number one hero. Izuku's fame reached new heights. His phone exploded with interview requests, sponsorship offers, and messages from pro heroes wanting to work with him. He ignored most of it. What mattered was getting stronger. All for One was still out there, and their next encounter wouldn't be interrupted by convenient timing or backup heroes. Izuku needed to be ready. The Provisional Hero License exam came next, a massive test involving hundreds of students from hero schools across the country. The format was brutal, a massive free-for-all, where students had to disable other competitors by hitting specific targets on their bodies. Izuku passed in the first round, his combat skills and tactical thinking letting him disable opponents efficiently without wasting energy. Several students tried to team up against him, recognizing him from the news coverage, but he handled them systematically. The second round involved rescue scenarios where students had to save civilians, actors playing victims while dealing with various disasters. This was where Izuku's versatility shined. He used darkness manipulation to create rescue platforms, Hellblaze to cut through debris safely, and his enhanced physical abilities to carry multiple victims at once. His strategic thinking let him prioritize which victims needed immediate help versus who could wait safely. The examiners were impressed. Provisional license granted, they announced after reviewing his performance. Midoriya Izuku, you're now authorized to use your quirk in public and engage in emergency hero activities. One step closer to the real thing, the Shiha Saikai began when Izuku encountered a little girl named Eri during a patrol. She was running, terrified from a man in a plague mask. Overhaul, the head of the Yakuza organization that had taken over the Shiha Saikai. Something about the situation felt wrong. The girl's fear was genuine, absolute, the kind that came from prolonged trauma. "Hey," Izuku said gently, kneeling to her level. "Are you okay?" Eri stared at him with wide, hopeless eyes. Then Overhaul appeared. "Sorry about that," the villain said calmly, his voice muffled by the mask. "My daughter got away from me. You know how kids are." Every instinct Izuku had screamed danger. This man was lying. The girl wasn't his daughter. Something terrible was happening here. But without evidence, without legal authority, Izuku couldn't act. Not yet. "Make sure to hold her hand next time," he said evenly, his eyes meeting Overhaul's through the mask. "Busy streets are dangerous for children." "Of course. Thank you for your concern." Overhaul took Eri's hand. She flinched at his touch and walked away. Izuku watched them go, memorizing every detail. The way Eri walked with defeated shoulders, the slight limp suggesting old injuries, the bandages visible on her arms. Something was very wrong. He reported the encounter to the heroes immediately, and an investigation began. What they discovered was horrifying. Overhaul was using Eri's quirk, which could rewind living things to create quirk-destroying bullets. He'd been experimenting on her for years, breaking her down and rebuilding her in an endless cycle of torture. A raid was planned. Multiple hero agencies coordinated. The Shiha Saikai compound would be hit simultaneously from multiple angles, Overhaul would be captured, and Eri would be rescued. Izuku volunteered immediately. "This is dangerous," Sir Night-Eye, one of the coordinating heroes, warned. "Overhaul is extremely powerful, and his organization is well-armed. Students shouldn't be on the front lines." "With respect, sir, I fought alongside All Might against All for One. I can handle this." Sir Night-Eye studied him for a long moment, his foresight quirk probably showing him potential futures. Finally, he nodded. "You'll be in the second wave. If the front line breaks through successfully, you won't be needed. If they encounter problems, you go in." "Understood." The raid began at dawn. The frontline heroes, Ryukyu, Fat Gum, and several others, breached the compound's main entrance. Immediately, they encountered resistance. Shiha Saikai members with various quirks, deadly traps, and a labyrinthine interior designed to funnel invaders into kill zones. "Second wave, move in," came the order 15 minutes later. Izuku, along with Kirishima, Uraraka, and Asui, entered through a side passage. They encountered members of Overhaul's 8 bullets. Elite subordinates with powerful quirks. The first one could rearrange matter, creating spikes and barriers from the environment. Izuku countered with darkness manipulation, his constructs negating the villain's creations and driving him back. The second one had crystallization powers, turning parts of his body into diamond-hard offensive weapons. Kirishima engaged him directly, while Izuku provided support with ranged Hellblaze strikes. They pushed deeper into the compound, fighting through room after room. The architecture kept shifting, Overhaul's quirk at work, changing the very structure of the building to disorient invaders. Finally, they reached the central chamber. Overhaul stood in the middle, Eri held in his arms like a hostage. His plague mask gleamed in the dim light. "You heroes just don't know when to quit," he said calmly. "This girl is my property, my experiment. You have no right to interfere." "She's a child," Izuku replied, his demon mark activating. Dark energy crackled around his body. "Not property, not an experiment, a person deserving of protection and care." How naive. Overhaul set Eri down gently, then placed his hands on the floor. "Let me show you the difference between idealism and reality." His quirk activated. The entire room exploded into chaos. Floor, walls, ceiling, all breaking apart and reforming as massive spikes, pillars, and crushing barriers. Overhaul manipulated matter itself, creating a deadly arena that shifted constantly. Izuku dodged a spike aimed at his heart, countered another with full counter, and created a darkness platform to avoid being crushed between shifting walls. Overhaul was fast, precise, and ruthless. Every movement created new hazards. The room became a death trap, constantly changing, impossible to predict. But Izuku had been training for exactly this kind of opponent. He used darkness manipulation to create safe zones, Hellblaze to destroy Overhaul's constructs before they fully formed, and his enhanced speed to stay ahead of the shifting environment. When Overhaul tried to impale him with a pillar, Izuku used full counter to reflect the kinetic energy back into the ground, shattering the attack before it connected. Impressive, Overhaul acknowledged, creating more complex patterns. But you're just delaying the inevitable. We'll see about that. Izuku changed tactics, going on the offensive instead of just defending. He created darkness weapons, blades, spears, hammers, and attacked from multiple angles simultaneously. Overhaul deconstructed each weapon with his quirk, but doing so meant he couldn't attack. Izuku was forcing him onto the defensive. "You're strong," Overhaul admitted, like his calm demeanor cracking slightly. "But strength alone isn't enough against my power. I can deconstruct anything I touch, reassemble it however I want. You can't win." "Then, I won't let you touch me." Izuku pushed his demon mark to maximum, his speed increasing to the point where Overhaul couldn't track him properly. He struck from blind spots, retreated before counterattacks could land, and used Hellblaze to keep Overhaul constantly reacting instead of planning. The villain's frustration grew. His attacks became more desperate, more reckless. He started making mistakes. That's when Izuku saw his opening. Overhaul tried to deconstruct the floor beneath Izuku's feet, forcing him to jump. While airborne and apparently vulnerable, the villain created a pincer attack from multiple directions, walls closing in to crush Izuku between them. But Izuku had predicted this. He created darkness constructs in midair, using them as platforms to change direction. Then instead of dodging, he flew directly at Overhaul through the closing walls. Full counter. He reflected Overhaul's own matter manipulation back at him. The walls the villain had created reversed course, slamming into Overhaul from both sides before he could deconstruct them. The villain was caught in his own attack, pinned between the walls he'd made. Izuku landed, breathing hard, his fist coated in Hellblaze. "This is over." He drove the flaming punch into the trapped Overhaul's chest, the black flames burning through his defensive barriers. The villain screamed, his quirk faltering as pain overwhelmed his concentration. The room stopped shifting. The chaos ceased. Overhaul collapsed, defeated. Izuku walked over to Eri, who'd been watching from a corner with terrified eyes. He knelt down, making himself less threatening. "It's okay now," he said gently. "You're safe. Nobody's going to hurt you anymore." Eri stared at him for a long moment. Then slowly, she reached out and grabbed his hand. "Promise?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I promise." Other heroes arrived seconds later, securing Overhaul and the other villains. Eri was taken into protective custody, where she'd receive medical care and therapy. Sir Night-Eye approached Izuku, his expression conflicted. "You did well. Better than my foresight predicted, actually. That's unusual. Maybe the future isn't as fixed as you think." "Perhaps." The hero smiled slightly. "You're going to be a great hero, Midoriya. I'm certain of it." The weeks following the Shihasaikai raid blurred together in a haze of media attention, training, and gradual power growth. Izuku's reputation as a top-tier hero student solidified. He'd fought alongside All Might, defeated major villains, and rescued a child from a Yakuza organization. The hero community took notice. Several top heroes reached out with collaboration offers. Endeavor, the new #1 hero following All Might's retirement, wanted to meet with Izuku personally. Hawk sent a casual message suggesting they grab lunch sometime, but the most interesting contact came from an unexpected source. "Pro-hero work in Japan is impressive," the message read, "but if you're interested in international experience, America always has openings for talented heroes. Kathleen Bate, Star and Stripe." Izuku stared at his phone in surprise. Star and Stripe, America's #1 hero, known for her incredible strength and her new order quirk that let her set rules on reality itself, had reached out to him directly. He responded professionally, thanking her for the offer, but explaining he was focused on completing his education at UA first. Her reply came minutes later. "Smart. Finish school, build your foundation. But when you're ready for the big leagues, look me up. I think we'd work well together. Izuku saved the contact information. You never knew when international connections might come in handy. Training continued intensively. Izuku pushed his abilities further than ever before. Experimenting with new applications and combinations, he discovered he could create limited flight using darkness manipulation, forming wing-like constructs that let him glide and maneuver in 3 dimensions. Not true flight like someone with a dedicated quirk, but enough mobility to change how he fought. His Hellblaze reached temperatures hot enough to melt reinforced steel in seconds. He learned to focus the flames into precise cutting tools or explosive blasts depending on what the situation required. His partial demon mark transformations became second nature. He could operate at 20% power for 6 hours now, 50% for 2 hours, or full power for 45 minutes before exhaustion set in, and he'd started noticing something else, a deeper level to his power that he hadn't accessed yet. During the most intense moments of battle, when he pushed himself to absolute limits, he could feel something more waiting to be unleashed. Like his current demon mark was just the first stage of a much larger transformation. He wasn't ready to access it yet, didn't even fully understand what it was, but he could feel it there. A reservoir of dark power even greater than what he'd already mastered, something to aspire to. Something to grow into. The joint training came next. Class 1A versus Class 1B in coordinated battle scenarios designed to push both groups. Izuku's match was against a team led by a student who could copy quirks temporarily. The strategy was interesting. Copy Izuku's demonic abilities and use them against him. It didn't work. The moment the copy quirk student tried to replicate Izuku's demon mark, something went wrong. His body rejected the transformation, dark energy erupting uncontrollably before sputtering out. "What the hell?" the student gasped, clutching his chest. Izuku realized what had happened. His demonic power wasn't a normal quirk, it was something older, something fundamentally different. You couldn't just copy it with a standard quirk replication ability. The match proceeded with Izuku's team dominating. His tactical leadership combined with his combat abilities made the outcome inevitable. Class 1A won decisively. After the training, Monoma, the copy quirk student, approached Izuku with grudging respect. "Your power is weird," he said bluntly. "It broke my quirk when I tried to copy it. What are you?" "Still figuring that out myself." Time passed. Months became a year. Izuku's second year at UA began with new challenges and new responsibilities. He'd grown taller, his frame filling out with muscle from constant training. His confidence had matured into quiet certainty. When he walked into a room, people noticed. Not because he demanded attention, but because his presence commanded respect. His classmates had grown too. Bakugo was less explosive, more focused. Todoroki had fully integrated his fire and ice, becoming a balanced fighter. Uraraka, Ida, and the others had all developed their quirks and combat skills significantly, but Izuku remained ahead of the curve, constantly pushing boundaries. It was during this period that everything changed. The alert came at 3 a.m. Massive villain activity detected in Tokyo. Multiple casualties reported. All available heroes respond immediately. Izuku grabbed his costume and was out the door in 90 seconds. When he arrived at the scene, he understood why every hero had been called. The city was under siege, not from the League of Villains, not from some organized crime syndicate, from something worse. A new threat had emerged from the shadows. A villain coalition calling themselves the Paranormal Liberation Front, led by someone who'd absorbed All for One's power and added it to his own considerable abilities. Tamura Shigaraki, evolved and empowered beyond recognition. The villain stood in the center of a massive crater where several city blocks used to be, his body covered in strange growths and his power radiating like a physical force. "Heroes," his voice boomed across the devastation. "The age of suppression is over. We will tear down your society and build something new from the ashes." Around him, hundreds of villains spread out across the city, some familiar faces from the League, others new recruits drawn to his power and vision. This was it. The final confrontation everyone had been dreading. All the top heroes were here: Endeavor, Hawks, Best Jeanist, Mirko, Ryukyu, Edgeshot, and dozens of others. Students from UA and other hero schools provided support and evacuation assistance. And somewhere in the chaos, All Might arrived despite his powerless state, unable to stand aside while the world burned. Izuku found himself standing beside Endeavor as they surveyed the destruction. "This is beyond anything we've faced before," the flame hero said grimly. "Shigaraki has become something inhuman. His power rivals what All for One possessed. Then we'll just have to surpass our limits." Izuku replied, his demon mark already activating. Endeavor glanced at him, seeing the dark energy crackling around the young hero's body. "You've gotten stronger. I can feel it. We'll see if it's enough." The battle began. The war that followed was chaos incarnate. Heroes and villains clashed across Tokyo. Buildings crumbled. Fires raged. Civilians evacuated in panic as heroes fought desperately to contain the destruction. Izuku threw himself into the battle without hesitation, his demonic abilities making him a force of nature on the battlefield. He encountered one of the Paranormal Liberation Front's lieutenants, a villain who could manipulate gravity in localized fields. The fight was intense, the gravity manipulation forcing Izuku to adapt constantly as the environment shifted around him. But Izuku had fought too many battles, trained too hard, grown too strong to be stopped by environmental manipulation alone. He used darkness manipulation to create stable platforms immune to the gravity shifts, Hellblaze to attack from range when close combat became impossible, and full counter to reflect the villain's most powerful techniques. The lieutenant fell in 4 minutes. Izuku moved through the battlefield like a demon of war, taking down villain after villain. His reputation preceded him. Several enemies fled rather than face the demon hero. But the real fight was happening elsewhere. In the heart of the devastation, Shigaraki battled multiple top heroes simultaneously. His decay quirk had evolved beyond anything they'd seen before. He could disintegrate entire buildings with a touch, and his physical abilities had been enhanced to monstrous levels through forced evolution. Endeavor's flames were powerful but couldn't land a solid hit. Hawk's feathers were disintegrated before they could strike. Best Genus control over fibers did nothing against someone who could decay anything he touched. They were losing. Izuku saw this and made his decision. He activated his demon mark to maximum power, dark energy erupting around his body in a visible aura. The temperature dropped. The air grew heavy. Even other heroes nearby felt the oppressive weight of his transformation. Then he flew toward Shigaraki, using his darkness-constructed wings, entering the battle against the most dangerous villain alive. Shigaraki's eyes locked onto him immediately. "Ah, the demon boy, I've been wanting to test myself against you. Hope you're ready to be disappointed." Izuku attacked with everything he had. Hellblaze blasts, darkness weapons, enhanced physical strikes. Shigaraki met each attack with his evolved body, his speed and strength matching Izuku's despite the demonic enhancement. When Izuku tried full counter on Shigaraki's decay touch, something interesting happened. The technique partially worked, reflecting some of the disintegration back at the villain, but Shigaraki's enhanced body resisted it. "Your counter ability is impressive," Shigaraki said, his voice disturbingly calm despite the chaos. "But I've evolved beyond simple quirk interactions. My power is fundamental now. Decay at the conceptual level." He was right. Izuku could feel it. Shigaraki's decay wasn't just a quirk anymore. It had become something deeper, more absolute. But Izuku's demonic power was also beyond normal quirks. This would be a battle of absolutes. They clashed in the ruined streets, trading blows that shattered pavement and collapsed buildings. Izuku's Hellblaze burned with black fire that shouldn't exist. Shigaraki's decay spread like a virus, consuming everything it touched. The other heroes created distance, recognizing that this battle was beyond their ability to influence. This was a clash between two individuals who transcended normal limitations. Izuku pushed harder, activating techniques he'd only theorized about in training. He combined full counter with revenge counter, creating a defensive technique that both reflected attacks and stored their energy for later release. He used darkness manipulation to create dozens of weapons simultaneously, attacking from every angle while using Hellblaze to prevent Shigaraki's decay from spreading. He pushed his physical abilities to their absolute limit, moving faster than the eye could track, hitting harder than steel-breaking blows. But Shigaraki matched him. The villain's evolution had made him into something monstrous. His body constantly regenerated damage, his decay spread faster and faster, and his physical abilities seemed to have no upper limit. They fought for 10 minutes. 20. 30. The devastation around them grew exponentially. Entire city blocks were reduced to rubble. Heroes and villains alike evacuated the area, unwilling to be caught in the crossfire. Izuku felt his stamina flagging. His demon mark transformation was draining him faster than ever before, the sheer output required to match Shigaraki burning through his energy reserves. But he couldn't stop. If he fell here, Shigaraki would kill everyone. The world would fall to this monster's decay. He needed more power. And in that moment of desperate need, Izuku felt it. That deeper reservoir of dark energy he'd sensed before. The next level of his transformation, waiting to be accessed. He'd always held back from touching it, unsure if he could control such power. Now he had no choice. Izuku let go of his restraints completely. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Dark energy exploded from his body in a shockwave that flattened everything within 100 meters. The demon mark on his forehead evolved, spreading across his face and body in intricate patterns. His eyes turned completely black, then ignited with dark flames. Power flooded through him. Not 3 times his normal abilities, but 10 times. 20 times. The multiplier was so extreme that reality itself seemed to bend around him. This was assault mode. The true form of his demonic power finally awakened. Shigaraki's eyes widened. What? What is that? Izuku didn't answer with words, he moved. One moment, he was standing 50 meters away. The next, his fist was buried in Shigaraki's stomach with enough force to create a shockwave that leveled buildings behind the villain. Shigaraki flew backward, crashing through structure after structure. He tried to activate his decay, but Izuku was already there, attacking from a new angle with Hellblaze at maximum output. The black flames burned hotter than anything Izuku had created before, hot enough to vaporize concrete, to melt steel like butter, to burn at the conceptual level just like Shigaraki's decay. The villain screamed, his regeneration struggling to keep up with the damage. Izuku pressed his assault with absolutely relentless aggression. Every technique in his arsenal unleashed at maximum power, full counter reflecting Shigaraki's attacks back at quadruple strength. Revenge counter, absorbing damage from Shigaraki's counterattacks and releasing it as devastating explosions. Hellblaze coating every strike, burning with black flames that negated healing. Trillion Dark, a technique Izuku had never successfully used before, unleashing a barrage of dark energy spheres that bombarded Shigaraki from every direction. God Ripper, massive slashes of black flame that cut through even Shigaraki's enhanced body. Darkness manipulation, creating weapons, shields, extra limbs, all attacking simultaneously. Izuku was berserk, not mindless but absolutely overwhelming in his assault. Every movement was precise, calculated, devastating. He'd trained for years to reach this level, and now he unleashed everything he'd learned in one apocalyptic display of power. Shigaraki tried to fight back, but for the first time in the battle, he was completely outmatched. His decay couldn't land against Izuku's impossible speed. His physical strength paled compared to assault mode enhancement. His regeneration couldn't keep up with Hellblaze's conceptual burning. The villain was being destroyed piece by piece. "This is impossible," Shigaraki roared, trying desperately to create distance. "Nobody should have this much power." "You wanted to see a real hero?" Izuku's voice was distorted by the demonic transformation, deeper and resonating with dark energy. "This is what it looks like when someone trains every single day, pushes beyond every limit, and refuses to give up." He created a massive sphere of darkness, 50 meters in diameter, pulsing with concentrated power. Hellblaze coated the surface, black flames dancing across the construct. Trillion Dark, complete annihilation. The sphere exploded, releasing hundreds of dark energy projectiles in every direction. Each one tracked Shigaraki specifically, homing in on his position and detonating with apocalyptic force. The explosions were visible from across Tokyo, a series of black blasts that lit up the night sky like a dark sun. When the smoke cleared, Shigaraki lay in a crater, his body broken and his regeneration finally failing. But he was still conscious, still trying to stand. "You're strong," the villain admitted, blood pouring from countless wounds. "Stronger than All Might, stronger than All for One. But you can't kill me. I'll regenerate, evolve again, come back even more powerful. Not this time. Izuku landed beside him, his hand coated in maximum output hellblaze. The black flames burned with such intensity that the air itself ignited around them. These flames don't just burn the body, they burn the concept of regeneration itself. Once you're ash, you stay ash. Shigaraki's eyes widened in genuine fear. Wait. Izuku didn't wait. He drove his flaming fist into Shigaraki's chest, the black hellblaze consuming the villain from the inside out. Shigaraki screamed, his body disintegrating not into dust, but into absolute nothing, erased at the fundamental level. Within seconds, the most dangerous villain in history was gone. Completely, permanently. The battlefield fell silent. Izuku stood in the center of the devastation, his assault mode transformation still active, dark energy crackling around his body. Other heroes approached cautiously, unsure how to react to what they'd just witnessed. Then All Might stepped forward, powerless, but still carrying the weight of the symbol of peace. "Young Midoriya," he said quietly. "It's over. You won." Izuku looked at him, the black flames in his eyes fading slightly. "Is everyone safe?" Most of the villains surrendered or fled when Shigaraki fell. "The city is secured. You saved everyone." The words penetrated through Izuku's battle focus. He'd won. The final threat was eliminated. It was really over. He released his assault mode transformation. The dark energy faded, the demon mark receding, and exhaustion hit him like a physical force. His legs gave out, and he collapsed. All Might caught him before he hit the ground. "Rest, my boy," the former #1 hero said gently. "You've earned it." Izuku's vision blurred, consciousness fading. The last thing he heard before darkness took him was the sound of cheering, heroes and civilians alike celebrating their victory. He'd done it. He'd become the hero he'd always dreamed of being. Izuku woke up 3 days later in a hospital bed, his body aching but whole. Recovery Girl was there immediately, checking his vitals with her usual efficiency. "Welcome back. You caused quite the stir." "What happened?" "You defeated the most dangerous villain in history, saved Tokyo from complete destruction, and showcased power that has the entire hero world talking." "Oh, and you've been unconscious for 72 hours because you pushed your body past every reasonable limit." She smiled despite her stern tone. "In other words, a normal Tuesday for you." Izuku tried to sit up, wincing at the muscle soreness. "The others, my classmates, everyone survived. Several injuries, but nothing permanent, thanks to your quick victory. If that battle had lasted much longer..." She trailed off, the implication clear. His phone was on the bedside table, and when he checked it, he found hundreds of messages. Congratulations from classmates, thanks from pro heroes, interview requests from every media outlet in Japan. One message stood out, though. From Star and Stripe, saw the news coverage. That was incredible. You single-handedly defeated the biggest threat to hero society. America could use someone with your strength and dedication. The offer stands. When you're ready, look me up, Izuku smiled. International recognition from the world's top heroes. Not bad. His mom visited later that day, crying with relief and pride in equal measure. His classmates came as a group, Bakugo grumbling about Izuku showing off while clearly impressed. Todoroki mentioned that Izuku's assault mode transformation had been recorded and was being analyzed by quirk researchers worldwide. All Might came last, sitting beside Izuku's bed with his characteristic warm smile. "You did it," the former symbol of peace said simply. "You became the hero I always knew you could be, maybe even surpassed what I accomplished. I learned from the best." "No, you became something new entirely." All Might's expression turned serious. "Your power, that assault mode transformation, it's beyond anything modern quirk theory can explain. The researchers are calling it a demonic evolution, something that predates quirks entirely. Does it matter what it's called? I suppose not. What matters is how you use it, and you've shown the world that demons can be heroes too." All Might stood, placing a hand on Izuku's shoulder. "I'm proud of you, young Midoriya. The world is in good hands." After he left, Izuku lay back in bed and thought about everything that had happened, from a confident kid with a strange counter ability to the hero who defeated the ultimate evil. The journey had been intense, challenging, sometimes terrifying, but he'd never given up, never stopped pushing forward. And now he was ready for whatever came next. 2 weeks later, Izuku received clearance to resume active duty. The hero community had officially recognized him as one of the strongest heroes in Japan, possibly the world. Job offers flooded in from every major agency, but before he made any decisions about his professional future, he had one more thing to take care of. Star and Stripe had mentioned she'd be in Japan for a collaboration with the Japanese Hero Commission. The meeting was scheduled at a neutral location, a secure facility where international hero business could be conducted. Izuku arrived early, dressed in his hero costume, but relaxed. He'd grown comfortable in his own skin, confident in his abilities without being arrogant about them. When Star and Stripe entered the room, Izuku understood immediately why she was America's #1 hero. She was tall, easily 6 feet, with a powerful build that spoke of serious training. Her costume featured American flag motifs, and her presence radiated confidence and strength. This was someone who'd never backed down from a challenge in her life. Midoriya, she greeted, her handshake firm. Finally meeting in person. I've heard a lot about you. Likewise, your work in America is legendary. They discussed potential collaboration opportunities for a while. Information sharing between Japanese and American hero agencies, joint training exercises, coordinated responses to international threats. Standard diplomatic stuff. Then the conversation shifted. I watched the footage of your fight against Shigaraki, Star and Stripe said, her tone becoming more personal. That assault mode transformation, I've never seen anything like it. The power output was off the charts. It's something I'm still mastering. That was actually the first time I'd fully accessed that level. And you controlled it perfectly. Most people's first time accessing that kind of power ends in disaster. You used it to save millions of lives. She leaned forward slightly. That's impressive. Really impressive. Thank you. Your new order quirk is fascinating too. Being able to set rules on reality itself, the versatility alone makes you one of the most dangerous heroes alive. They talked for another hour, discussing hero philosophy, training methods, and their respective experiences. The conversation flowed naturally, two powerful individuals with mutual respect finding common ground. As the official meeting concluded and they were preparing to leave, Star and Stripe paused. You know, Japan produces incredible heroes. All Might was a legend in America too, but I think you might surpass even him. That's high praise. It's an observation. She smiled. Look, I'm going to be in Japan for another week handling commission business. If you're interested, we could grab dinner sometime, compare notes on international hero work, maybe talk about that assault mode thing in more detail. Izuku recognized the subtext immediately. This wasn't just a professional invitation, he smiled, meeting her eyes directly. I'd like that. How about tomorrow night? I know a good place in Tokyo that's quiet enough for hero talk. Tomorrow works? 7 o'clock? Perfect. They exchanged contact information, and as Star and Stripe left, Izuku allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. He'd just made plans with America's #1 hero. Not bad for a second-year student. The dinner went well. Better than well, actually. Star and Stripe was intelligent, funny, and genuinely interested in hero work beyond just the fame and glory. They talked for 3 hours about everything from combat tactics to the philosophy of heroism to their respective training regimens. You're different from most Japanese heroes I've met, she commented over dessert. More direct, confident. Some of your peers seem almost apologetic about their strength. I worked hard for my abilities. I'm not going to apologize for using them effectively. Exactly. That's the mentality that makes great heroes, she smiled. We should do this again. Maybe next time I could watch you train. I'd love to see that assault mode in a controlled environment. I could arrange that. Though I should warn you, my training tends to destroy whatever facility I'm using. Then we'll use a reinforced one. Over the following week, they spent more time together. Training sessions where Star and Stripe demonstrated her new order quirk, and Izuku showcased his demonic abilities. Casual conversations about their lives and goals. A growing connection that went beyond simple professional respect. On her last night in Japan, they met for coffee at a quiet cafe. I have to head back to America tomorrow, Star and Stripe said, sounding genuinely regretful. Commission work waits for no one. Understood. It's been great getting to know you. Likewise. You're really something, Midoriya. Powerful, smart, genuinely committed to helping people. She paused, then added with a slight smile, also pretty charming when you're not demolishing villains. You're not so bad yourself. America's lucky to have you. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the cafe quiet around them. Then Star and Stripe pulled out her phone. "I'm going to give you my personal number, not the official commission one, my actual personal contact. Use it if you ever need anything, advice, backup, or just someone to talk to who understands what it's like operating at our level." Izuku saved the number. "Thank you. Same goes for you. If you're ever in Japan again or need help with something international, let me know." "Oh, I'll definitely be back." Japan just became a lot more interesting. As they parted ways that night, Star and Stripe leaned in and kissed him on the cheek, a brief moment of contact that spoke volumes. Until next time, Demon Hero. Izuku watched her leave, a smile on his face. His reputation as a hero was growing internationally now. Connections with people like Star and Stripe would only strengthen his ability to help people on a global scale. And maybe, just maybe, there was something more there worth exploring when the timing was right. The months that followed were a period of growth and consolidation. Izuku continued his training, pushing his assault mode transformation to longer durations and greater control. He could maintain it for 10 minutes now without complete exhaustion afterward. Still nowhere near his partial transformation endurance, but improving steadily. His reputation in the hero community reached legendary status. He was invited to speak at hero conferences, consulted on villain threat assessments, and offered positions at virtually every major agency in Japan. He chose to remain independent for now, working as a contractor who could be called in for major incidents. The flexibility allowed him to continue his education while still contributing to hero society. Class 1A graduated to their final year at UA, and the school festival that year featured Izuku giving a demonstration of his abilities to prospective students. The showing was impressive enough that applications to UA increased by 40%. Everyone wanted to train at the school that produced the Demon Hero. Bakugo finally acknowledged Izuku as an equal, the two of them sparring regularly and pushing each other to new heights. Their rivalry had evolved into mutual respect and genuine friendship. Todoroki mastered his dual nature completely, becoming one of the top students alongside Izuku and Bakugo. The three of them formed an unofficial leadership group within the class. Uraraka confessed her feelings to Izuku during the school festival. He turned her down gently. He respected her deeply as a friend and colleague, but his heart wasn't in the same place. She took it with grace, their friendship surviving the awkwardness. Life settled into a new rhythm. Training, studying, hero works, and gradual preparation for professional career after graduation. Everything was going well, too well, because fate had one more challenge waiting. The crisis alert came during Izuku's final year at UA, 6 months before graduation. A massive threat had emerged in international waters, something that registered on every hero agency's sensors as catastrophic level danger. The threat was identified as a villain who'd somehow accessed reality warping abilities on a scale that defied comprehension. Japan's Hero Commission immediately coordinated with international agencies. This wasn't a problem any single country could handle alone, and at the center of the response effort was Star and Stripe, America's #1 hero leading the international coalition. Izuku received a direct call from her. "We need your help," she said without preamble. "This thing, whatever it is too dangerous for conventional approaches. We need someone who can operate at the highest power levels and adapt to reality warping. That's you." "Where and when?" "International waters, 200 kilometers off Japan's east coast. We're assembling a strike team of the world's strongest heroes, departing in 6 hours." "I'll be there." The strike team was impressive. Star and Stripe, Endeavor, Hawks, several top American heroes, and a few representatives from other countries' hero agencies. They assembled on a military aircraft carrier, briefing and strategy sessions running continuously as they approached the threat. The villain, identified only as Paradox, had appeared 3 days ago and immediately demonstrated reality warping abilities that let him create impossible scenarios. Heroes who'd engaged him found themselves trapped in recursive time loops, caught in paradoxical situations where victory was logically impossible or simply erased from existence through reality contradictions. "Our best strategy is overwhelming force," Star and Stripe explained during the briefing. "Hit him with everything simultaneously before he can isolate and neutralize us individually. Midoriya, Your assault mode transformation will be key. It seems to operate outside normal reality, which might make you resistant to his warping. Understood. What's the engagement plan? They reviewed tactics for 2 hours, everyone contributing their expertise. The plan that emerged was straightforward. Create multiple attack vectors simultaneously, force Paradox to defend from every direction, and capitalize on any opening that appeared. As the strike team prepared to deploy, Star and Stripe pulled Izuku aside. "This is dangerous," she said quietly. "More dangerous than anything we've faced before. If this goes wrong, it won't." "You don't know that." "No. But I know I've trained for exactly this kind of scenario. Well, impossible odds against a reality-warping threat. Just another Tuesday." He smiled. "Besides, I've got America's #1 hero watching my back. Pretty sure we'll be fine." She laughed despite the tension. "Your confidence is either inspiring or insane. I haven't decided which." "Can it be both?" The aircraft carrier reached the engagement zone. In the distance, they could see Paradox, a figure surrounded by distorted space, reality literally bending around him. "Strike team, deploy," came the order. Heroes launched from the carrier, approaching from multiple directions. Endeavor created a massive flame assault from above. Hawks attacked with thousands of feathers from the flanks. American heroes unleashed their most powerful quirks simultaneously, and Izuku activated his assault mode transformation, dark energy erupting around his body as he flew directly at Paradox using his darkness-constructed wings. The villain's response was immediate. Reality twisted. Suddenly, Izuku found himself back on the carrier, the attack having apparently never happened. But he remembered launching, remembered flying toward Paradox. A time loop? No. His demonic power was screaming warnings. This wasn't a time loop. This was reality rewriting, trying to make it so the attack never occurred. But Izuku's assault mode existed partially outside normal reality. The rewrite didn't fully take, he launched again, this time coating himself in Hellblaze to anchor his existence. The black flames burned at the conceptual level, making him harder to erase or rewrite. This time the attack connected. His Hellblaze-coated fist drove into Paradox's reality-warped barrier, and the black flames spread across the distortion like corruption, burning away the impossibility. Paradox screamed, his reality warping destabilizing. The other hero's attacks, which had been caught in the rewrite, suddenly became real again, hitting the villain from every direction simultaneously. "Impossible," Paradox roared. "I control reality itself. How are you resisting?" "Because my power isn't part of your reality." Izuku unleashed Trillion Dark, the dark energy spheres, ignoring Paradox's warping and striking directly. "You can bend the world however you want, but you can't bend what exists outside your framework." The battle that followed was surreal and terrifying. Paradox created impossible geometries, spaces where up was down and left was inside. He made attacks that existed in the future, happen in the present. He tried to erase heroes from existence entirely, but the combined assault was too much to handle. Star and Stripe used New Order to set rules that countered his warping. Endeavor's flames burned with such heat that reality itself couldn't contain them. Hawk's speed created so many attack vectors that Paradox couldn't track them all. And Izuku, operating in full assault mode, became a demon of pure destruction. Every technique in his arsenal unleashed at maximum power. Hellblaze burning away reality, warping wherever it spread. Full counter reflecting Paradox's attacks, even when they defied normal physics. God Ripper creating massive slashes that cut through the distorted space itself, darkness manipulation forming weapons and constructs that existed independently of the warped reality. Izuku was relentless, overwhelming, unstoppable. He'd trained for years to reach this level, and now he demonstrated exactly why he was considered one of the world's strongest heroes. Within 8 minutes of sustained assault, Paradox's reality warping began breaking down. The impossible became possible again. The distortions faded. "This can't be," the villain screamed, his power failing. "I had ultimate control. I could rewrite anything." "You forgot one thing," Izuku said, his fist coated in maximum output Hellblaze. "There are things you can't rewrite, things that exist beyond your control." He drove the flaming punch into Paradox's chest. The black flames consumed the villain, burning not just his body, but his very concept. The reality warping collapsed entirely, space snapping back to normal as Paradox was reduced to ash, silence fell over the ocean. The strike team floated in the air or stood on the carrier deck, processing what had just happened. They'd won. Star and Stripe flew over to Izuku, landing beside him on a darkness-constructed platform. You just burned away a reality warper. That shouldn't even be possible. My power operates outside normal rules, makes me perfect for dealing with things that break reality. He released his assault mode transformation, exhaustion hitting immediately. She caught him before he could fall, her strength easily supporting his weight. You really are something special, you know that? So I've been told. They flew back to the carrier together, Izuku recovering gradually as his stamina returned. The other heroes were celebrating the victory, relief, and exhilaration mixing together. As evening fell and the strike team prepared to return to Japan, Star and Stripe found Izuku again. "That was one hell of a fight," she said, sitting beside him on the deck. "You saved everyone today. That reality warping would have killed half the strike team if you hadn't countered it. Team effort. You set rules that weakened him significantly." "Maybe, but you were the one who finished it," she smiled. "You know, watching you fight at that level, seeing your assault mode in action against something that powerful, it was incredible, beautiful in a terrifying way. Thanks. Your new order is pretty amazing too. Setting rules on reality itself? That's creative problem solving taken to the extreme." They talked as the sun set, the ocean calm around them. The conversation drifted from the battle to more personal topics. Their goals, their fears, what they wanted from life beyond hero work. "I'm going to be honest with you," Star and Stripe said eventually. "This connection we have, it's not just professional respect. I think you're incredible as a hero and as a person, and I'd like to see where this could go." Izuku met her eyes, seeing genuine interest and affection there. "I'd like that too. The timing is complicated with graduation coming up and starting my professional career, but then we'll figure it out as we go. No pressure, no expectations. Just seeing what develops. That works for me." She leaned in and kissed him, not on the cheek this time, but properly. The kiss was brief but meaningful, a promise of possibility. Until next time, Demon Hero. Until next time, number 1. Graduation came and went in a blur of ceremonies and celebrations. Izuku, Bakugo, Todoroki, and the rest of Class 1A received their hero licenses officially. They'd technically been operating as provisional heroes for years, but this made it official. They were now full-fledged pro heroes. The graduation speech was given by All Might, who looked out at the assembled students with pride. "You represent the future of hero society," he said, his voice carrying across the auditorium. "Each of you has trained hard, overcome challenges, and proven yourselves worthy of the title hero. Now you'll take that training into the real world and make it a better, safer place for everyone." His eyes found Izuku in the crowd, a small smile appearing. "Some of you will become legends. Others will work quietly behind the scenes. But all of you are heroes, and the world needs every one of you." After the ceremony, the class gathered for one final celebration together. They'd been through so much. Villain attacks, training exercises, personal struggles, victories and defeats. The bonds forged through those experiences would last a lifetime. "So what's next for you?" Todoroki asked Izuku as they stood apart from the main group. "International hero work, probably. I've got offers from agencies in Japan, America, and Europe. Might split my time between countries for a while, build a global reputation." "Makes sense. Your power scale is suited for worldwide operations." Todoroki paused. "We should stay in touch, maybe coordinate on cases that need multiple heavy hitters." "Absolutely. I'm not losing contact with anyone from 1A. We're a team, even if we're operating independently now." Bakugo wandered over, looking unusually contemplative. "You're really going international, huh?" "Planning on it." "Good. Someone needs to show the world what Japanese heroes can do." He held out his hand. "Don't make me look bad, Deku." Izuku shook his hand, both of them grinning. The childhood nickname that used to be an insult had somehow become a term of respect between them. "Wouldn't dream of it, Kachan." The celebration continued into the night, everyone sharing memories and making promises to stay connected. This was the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. Izuku stood on the UA roof later that night, looking out at the city lights. His phone buzzed. A message from Star and Stripe, congratulations on graduation. Ready to join the big leagues? He smiled, typing back, born ready. The future stretched ahead of him, full of possibility and challenge. He'd become one of the strongest heroes in the world, mastered his demonic abilities, and built connections that spanned internationally. But the journey wasn't over. It was just beginning. 5 years later, Izuku Midoriya stood atop a Tokyo skyscraper, his hero costume rippling in the wind. The city sprawled beneath him, peaceful and safe. He'd built a reputation as one of the world's premier heroes. His agency operated internationally, handling major threats that crossed national borders. His assault mode transformation was recognized globally as one of the most powerful abilities in existence. He'd worked alongside Star and Stripe on numerous occasions, their professional partnership having evolved into a genuine relationship. The distance was challenging. She was based in America. He split time between Japan and Europe, but they made it work. His former classmates had all become successful heroes in their own right. Bakugo ran a top agency in Japan, known for his aggressive but effective methods. Todoroki worked in public safety, his dual-element quirk perfect for disaster response. Uraraka had started a rescue-focused agency. Ida coordinated hero teams for the Commission. All Might had passed away peacefully 2 years ago, having lived to see his students become the heroes he'd always believed they could be. The world was safer than it had been in decades. Major villain organizations had been dismantled. Threats that emerged were handled quickly by coordinated hero responses. It wasn't perfect. Crime still existed, villains still plotted, and innocent people still needed saving. But it was better. And Izuku would keep fighting to make it even better. His phone rang. Star and Stripe's number. "Hey," he answered, a smile in his voice. "Hey, yourself. I'm in Tokyo for a few days. Commission business, and definitely not just to see you." "Obviously. What kind of commission business?" "The boring kind. But I'll be free tonight. Dinner? I know just the place." They talked for a few more minutes before hanging up. Izuku looked out at the city again, thinking about how far he'd come. From a confident kid with mysterious powers to one of the world's strongest heroes, the journey had been incredible. And it was far from over. Epilogue: The Demon Hero's Legacy. The history books would remember Izuku Midoriya as the demon hero Deku, a name that started as mockery and evolved into respect. His contributions to hero society were immeasurable, defeating All For One's successor, stopping reality-warping threats, establishing international hero cooperation protocols, and training the next generation of heroes. But more than his victories or his power, Izuku was remembered for proving that strength came from dedication, training, and the willingness to push beyond limits. His demonic abilities were extraordinary, but his real power was his refusal to give up on anyone. He'd saved thousands of lives directly and inspired millions more to become better, stronger, more dedicated heroes. Class 1A's graduation class produced more top-tier heroes than any other in UA's history, and many credited Izuku's leadership and example as the catalyst for their success. His relationship with Star and Stripe became a symbol of international hero cooperation, the two of them working together on major crises and proving that borders meant nothing when it came to protecting people. The Demon Mark, his transformation that had once seemed dark and dangerous, became recognized as a symbol of hope. When that black pattern appeared on his forehead, people knew they were safe. Evil would be defeated. Justice would prevail. Izuku Midoriya had become exactly what he'd always wanted to be, a hero who saved everyone with a smile, and the world was better for it. The end.
And now, it's time for our Patreon shout-out. For our pro-hero tier, the rising stars lighting the path of justice, Ancient Chant, and Javon McQuire. And now, hold on to your seats, because this is the Legion of Legends. An unstoppable force of pure energy. They are our symbols of peace. Thank you to Asail Cardenas, Shaquan Simmons, Agroxa298, Sunawind 631, Freddy Rose, Omega, Toxic Rune, Akuma no Akami, Chris Talley, Alexander Thompson, Remorsefuls, Black Vein, Joshua Hedrington, Aaron Abercrombie, Drift SKETR, Corey Tokars, Jan, Zero Hope 3656, Devin Black, Crow, Usbrid, Roberto Ramos Di Cristina, Dasher Games, Joe Bros, Ray Von Crimson River, Dante Alastor, Adam Yonkers, Blood Saints, Donna Cafe, Zeph, KC, Howie 60, Ignacio, Albert, Carlos Terry, and Lord Shawarma. You are the backbone of this community. Finally, we're going cosmic. These are the Titans, the galactic guardians whose generosity knows no bounds. Please raise the roof. The sheer power of this fusion is legendary. What did you think of Deku's demonic potential? Thanks for watching. If you crave more insane anime what-ifs and want to join our theory crafting community, be sure to smash that subscribe button and power up for our next video.